What my reports over here. All right, it's 7 o'clock. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Kelly, would you call the roll?
Michael DeVito.
Here.
Christian Koppel. Beth Marie Evans.
Here.
Alex Grados.
Here.
Cole Regnery.
Here.
Heather Tomlinson.
Here.
Alan Zantut.
Present.
Quorum is present.
All right. As a reminder, our board governs by policy aligned with state law. These policies are not just guidelines. They are legal, ethical obligations that ensure transparency, accountability, and consistent leadership. When policies no longer meet the district's needs, it's our responsibility to amend them within the bounds of the law to better serve our community. The board acts only as a whole in a duly convened public meeting with a quorum present. Outside of this structure, no individual member has authority. Adherence to policy protects the district from risk and ensures that all decisions are fair, lawful, and aligned with our strategic goals. Our mission is to empower all learners to succeed in their world. Our vision is to provide an ideal learning experience where students and staff are engaged and want to come back the next day. Our board policies and actions should reflect that mission and vision. Not just going to talk to all of you guys all night, so a few more remarks. On September 16th, 2025, the Sycamore Community School District Insurance Committee met and voted to eliminate the low-deductible health plan for all staff members. This transition, which will take effect January 1st, 2026, is projected to generate an estimated $1.5 million in recurring annual savings for employees in the district. Approximately $640,000 in employee savings and $860,000 in district savings. As part of this transition, the Board of Education approved a memorandum of understanding with the Sycamore Education Association regarding staff health insurance. In recent months, the District Insurance Committee had worked closely with the district's insurance broker, the Board of Education, and the SEA to evaluate health insurance options. The committee's shared goal is to identify the most sustainable, cost-effective path forward while remaining mindful of the impact on employees and their families. Through this collaborative process, the committee recommended removing the low-deductible health plan and maintaining the existing high-deductible health plan, or HSA, as the district's primary health insurance option. The SEA leadership hosted a membership vote, and an overwhelming majority voted to approve the change. This shows how, when we work side by side with staff, how much we can truly achieve. I'm really proud of this collaboration with the SEA, the insurance committee, and our district leadership team. This agreement reflects the district's commitment to fiscal responsibility, good stewardship, and collaboration, and it demonstrates transparency and mutual trust and how that can lead to meaningful positive results for staff and district stakeholders. The next item on the agenda is our recognition spotlight. So we have two groups we'd like to recognize tonight. First of which is our Spartan TV. On October 10th, our Spartan TV students had the incredible opportunity to be featured on the national stage when the homecoming football game debuted on Marquee Sports Network as part of their Community Showcase series. This game showcased the energy, pride, and community spirit that defines Sycamore. According to the ratings provided by the Marquee Sports Network, 4,000 people across the country tuned in to watch. The Marquee producer praised the team for an excellent 20-minute open, noting the clear excitement and energy leading up to the game, and noted how professional the broadcast was from start to finish. At a later date, the students will travel to Chicago to tour the Marquee Sports Network studios located across from Wrigley Field. I want to say thank you to the following students who are in attendance tonight. If you are in attendance on behalf of Spartan TV or the Spartan TV Network, or in any way involved in the Spartan TV Network, if you could please stand. We would also like to acknowledge our Spartan TV advisor, Mr. Rich Aguilera, who took the initiative to apply for this opportunity over the summer. been wonderful to witness the growth of this program under his leadership and to see the advancement of our students' skills and education. So one more round of applause for our Spartan TV. I'm also very excited for the Pumpkin Fest recording too. I hadn't had enough Pumpkin Fest watching the parade and being involved in the parade. We got home, we ate chili, we put on the Pumpkin Fest recording. We didn't get through the whole thing, so I've got like some Thanksgiving Day material, so good stuff. All right, our next group to recognize in our student and staff spotlight is our building principals. So it is October 20th through the 24th. Governor Pritzker declared Principal Appreciation Week. And Friday, October 24th, is Principal Appreciation Day in Illinois. Effective school leadership is vital to the success of every school district, and principals play a critical role in fostering a positive educational environment. The principals of our district demonstrate exceptional leadership by supporting high-quality instruction, promoting student well-being, building strong relationships with families and staff, and ensuring that schools operate safely and efficiently. Our principals consistently model professionalism, dedication, and integrity while addressing the diverse needs of students and guiding our school community with compassion and purpose. The month of October, having been designated as Principal Appreciation Month, offers an opportunity to recognize and honor the significant contributions made by principals in our schools. The Board of Education extends its sincere appreciation to all district principals for their outstanding service, leadership, and commitment to educational excellence. We encourage students, staff, families, and community members to join in acknowledging the essential role our principals play in the continued growth and success of our school district. Thank you to our principals, assistant principals, dean of students, Neam Welp, Jake Countryman, Sarah Frankowitz, Tom Rucker, Thomas Franks, Emily Waller, Mark Ekstrom, Justin Hames, Justin Drennan, Ryan Swanson, Katie Hertz, Steve Balster, Chauncey Carrick, and Nate Wright. If you're in the audience tonight, please, if you'd stand to be recognized. All right. We'll move on to, and I'll make a note too about student and staff recognition. We did solicit the general stakeholders for the Sycamore community regarding nominations for recognition, and we received it was a survey that was put together by our communications department. The idea was if you see or identify someone who deserves recognition to be recognized at the board, or at one of our board meetings, fill out the nomination form with some reasons why. The survey was circulated for a couple of weeks and received nearly hundreds of responses. It was overwhelming, the amount of responses we received. So in an effort to try and effectively manage that and be respectful, but also recognize the talent from those nominations, we're going to be working to effectively integrate that into our Board of Education schedule. So more to come on the nominations. And also great to see, seems like it's a smashing success. So the next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. The recommended action is to approve the consent agenda as presented, items 4.01 through 4.08. Item 4.01 is minutes of regular meeting, September 23rd, 2025. Minutes of executive session, September 23rd, 2025. Minutes of special meeting, September 30th, 2025. Minutes of executive session, September 30th, 2025. Bills payable, financial reports, personnel report, gifts and donations report. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as proposed?
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Just like to thank Narisha Rashid, the Sports Boosters, and the SAF for their generous donations to the district.
Amen. That's great.
Yeah, it looks like, and the public should also be able to see all items on the consent agenda with exception to a few of the restricted pieces, but bills payable, financials, and the donations report. So, all right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion?
I'd just like to thank Nick and anybody that contributed to the great hires we had. There was 4 people hired, and I think it was really good. We even had someone that spoke a foreign language think it was some type of Arabic, Yemenis or something. And it was such a fit for the student because she actually had a visually impaired student as well. So we had a visually impaired student and I just thought it was really great. We have 4 great hires and new teachers, and I'd like to just publicly welcome them and thank Nick for all his hard work.
Yeah, that's great. Any other comments? Kelly, would you call the roll?
Grados,
Yes.
Regnery,
Aye.
Tomlinson,
Yes.
Zantut,
Yes.
Evans,
Yes.
DeVito.
Yes.
Motion carried.
All right. The next item on the agenda is the NIA consent agenda. The recommended action, a motion to approve the NIA consent agenda as presented, items 5.01 through 5.04. Those items are the NIA Treasurer's Report, the NIA Bills Payable, NIA Personnel Report, and NIA Contract/Vendor Agreement Report. Is there a motion to approve the NIA consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion. Kelly, would you call the roll?
Regnery,
Aye.
Tomlinson,
Yes.
Zantut,
Yes.
Koppel. Oh, I'm sorry. Evans,
Yes.
Grados,
Yes.
DeVito.
Yes.
Motion carried.
On to the next item on the agenda, the audience to visitors. Guided by Board Policy 2230 and the Illinois Open Meetings Act, this is a business meeting held in public. The 7 of us seated here are your neighbors, volunteers entrusted by you to care for your schools. We're truly grateful you've chosen to spend a portion of your evening with us. To balance participation with the board's agenda, we've reserved up to 30 minutes for public comment. Each speaker is kindly asked to limit remarks to 3 minutes. Unused time may not be transferred to another person. Any extension requires a majority vote of the board. When you're recognized, please approach the podium, state your name, share your thoughts. The board will listen without debate this evening. Questions or concerns, when called for, will be routed through the appropriate administrative channels for follow-up, consistent with our chain of command procedures. If you'd like to speak, please raise your hand and wait to be called. Thank you for lending your voice and helping us model effective self-government for our students. Is there anyone who'd like to address the board at this time? Seeing no one, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, superintendent reports. So we've got a lot here. 7.01, building and departmental updates. We've got reports from early childhood, K-5, middle school, high school, building and grounds, communication, food services, Oscar, student services, and transportation. I just want to first say before we dive into some discussion and some comment, I'm hopeful that in having reviewed these reports in advance of this meeting that we're able to get a clear line of sight on some of the happenings district-wide. I'm also hopeful that as a board, we can try and, if we do have questions or inquiry, be mindful of the limitations of same-day questions, and that if there is something that we might need answers to, it may be something that could be pursuant to a follow-up meeting. Future agenda items could come from some of this discussion regarding these reports, future directives, resolutions, policy changes, budgetary considerations. None of these are action items. These are all just informational pieces. So I'm just, again, hopeful to set aside about 15 minutes for us to just discuss and go through some of the reports and any comments or points of interest. And I understand there's some people in the audience who produce the reports. So if you have something that you think might be valuable to contribute as we go through this questioning, feel free to chime in, but at no point are you expected to address any questions that the board has. Nick is out today, so Nicole has been kind enough to help, and she's bearing a lot of the burden now. So as we go through these reports, again, we can direct those to Nicole, and where applicable, chip in. So anyway, any comments to start?
Could we just go through them one at a time, maybe?
Sure. So early childhood, we'll start with that. This one I spent a lot of attention on, and I went back and forth quite a bit with Nicole on, so thank you for all those answers. But before I get into my questions, any comments, discussion?
Yeah, thanks again, everybody, for producing these. I think these are great documents. They'll create a good record, public record, so that people who want to know what's going on can come back and, audit what we've been doing and what we're going to do. The early childhood report is near and dear to me. I think that's an excellent program, and I've said many times I'd like to see us grow it. Correct me if I'm wrong, Nicole, or is Neem here? I think. Yeah. So just correct me, but as I'm understanding it, sort of 3 buckets of student. There's like the PFA grant, there's the regular tuition, and then there's the SPED students. And growth could theoretically happen in all 3 lanes together. That'd be limited by physical space. And then the other type of growth that could happen, obviously the special education growth, that's just what it is. And we just, we do everything we have to there. Quality comes first. Maybe there could be some grant growth. I don't know exactly how that works. And then basically the bucket that could grow is everything else, the regular tuition growth. And I couldn't exactly unpack all the numbers that you presented, so maybe you can either shine a light on that.
Yeah, so I got some information, Cole, on the
okay.
numbers, and I'll just lay this out as I understand it. Nicole, correct me if I'm wrong here. So the sources of revenue, we have 63 students who are in some way connected to the Preschool for All grant, and that realizes $436,800 connected to those 63 students. $8,711 are connected to a grant for supplies related to the IDEA preschool grant. And then we have the third source of, again, I'll say revenue, for the 50 tuition students who are spanning a 36-week period at $250 per month.
That's per
month. Per month.
For 9 months.
For 9 months, right. So in total, that equates to, let me see here. As I do math publicly, it's where people leave. It's like about $114,000.
So what? Yeah, again.
So there's an operating. Again, this isn't.
I didn't want to exactly get into the weeds necessarily so much on the numbers, but just maybe I'm just know if I'm understanding this correctly or not. But so I want to grow this program, but I don't know that we can have a ton of growth because it's going to draw on our operating funds, which we need for the rest of the district, unless the tuition is such that as you add seats, for not costing more and more money. Obviously, CapEx, whatever. If it's a one-time thing, then okay. But I just is there a way to see how we can grow it sustainably and build this thing out? That's my top line question.
Didn't Naya, I don't want to say her name wrong, but the one who secured the grant.
Neve.
What?
Yeah, Neve's here in the audience.
Neve.
Too, so
Oh.
she can help answer.
Yes, thank you so much for that great work. And, but anyway, isn't there a chance for more grants as well as the tuition?
Grant cycle is due next year. As I put in the report, there's a few issues with the fact that we're going to go to a new state agency, which is blending really birth to 3 early intervention and preschool together. And there's still a lot of unknowns on that new state agency and where the funding will come from, and if the funding for Preschool for All will change under that new state agency. So we are waiting for more information. I'm signed up for every email blast. I forward them to Nicole. Nicole forwards them to me. Sometimes we get the same one within 5 minutes of each other. So we're really just waiting for information on the state of how the new state agency will affect our funding. And then kind of just how demographics in our state change and things like that. But yeah, so there's always an opportunity every time the RFP comes available to reapply, and that would be our intention, is to continue to reapply. If we are able to write for more seats, we would have to have the space to do that, and at this time, that is our issue. It would be the physical classrooms.
Will you be able to utilize any of the space here at some point in this building?
We've not talked about that specifically yet, but that would be something that we could definitely explore.
Awesome. Thank you so much again for your hard work.
Yeah, so we definitely would agree. We'd love to grow it too.
So it sounds like the current constraint is space. It doesn't matter across the rest of those buckets. So.
Well, financially, there's always a constraint, right? So we
Right.
want to make sure that we have the money to support the programs and the needs of the students. But we are funded. So our funding for the PFA students also includes some of our IEP students. IEP students can be PFA students as well. That's why we can get to that 112 number. It's just about time and the fact that we continue to always be a special education program first to make sure the needs of that legal component of the program are met.
I think having a future agenda item of what cost we would need to charge the tuition-based students so that each additional tuition-based student, the district wouldn't need to incur a cost from operating funds.
I did some rough hand math, and it was like $671 per month, and we're at like $250.
Well,
per
I guess
month.
that's my next question. One thing, the Little Spartans is $250 per week.
No, per month.
It does say at the bottom.
days a week at
it's
$250.
per month. It's a
Okay.
clarifying point. Yep.
So, okay. That makes us on the extreme low end then, right?
Well, if
Because-
you-
are all these per month?
Oh, I see.
Those are
Because
all
3 days
right,
per week.
those are all per
YMCA is $238.
Those are all per month.
Those are
These are all
Yeah.
monthly.
Yeah.
Okay,
I
that
put in there monthly, like just so you have like a comparison in town. And like, we are not the cheapest. If you add a daycare option, there's a one cheaper than us in town. But I just tried to give you some perspective of the other prices in town that are available. And the fact that we still have families telling us we're too expensive and that they're arriving to kindergarten with no early intervention. The point of early intervention for our district is the money spent at the front end that saves us money on the back end in specialized programming, resources, principals' time with students. Like you could come down with a whole list of things that, because they've been in early childhood, which is an early intervention for their education, that we save money as a district. There's a lot of studies. I can give you more details about per dollar you save by offering early childhood.
Yeah, and I don't want you to. You don't have to defend early childhood. I
No,
think.
I know.
there's
I'm
a- yeah.
just telling you that it is a long-term investment for the student.
So some of the limiters that I was seeing too were like if we wanted to, it's 3 through 5, right? So that's, and let's just say with 3,600 students, and if it's 300 we'd go 12 grades. It's 300 students per cohort roughly. We're serving 150. Let's say there's 900 total that we could be serving. Is that, so again, napkin math, pretty close?
I would do 600 just because
Okay.
we wouldn't serve a whole fifth grade class. They would
Perfect.
go
Yeah, so 600 students. So for us to be gold standard, offering full swing early childhood, we need to be able to get from 150 to 600. Right now, we're at about $147,000 operating loss with 150. So again, freehand math, you're losing about $1,000 per seat. So if you said, okay, we wanted to add 450 seats, we need another. And again, I'm sure there's some economies of scale. I'm sure there's some seat caps. I'm sure Preschool for All messes with this a little. I know transportation isn't in this, but the number's like 450 grand in recurring costs out of the budget, roughly, maybe, is the way I'm reading this, to be able to do like a full-fledged early childhood program offering. Then there's the space constraint. And then you need to be able to have, which is, in my mind, on a lot of levels, like a one-time investment. But we have space, we go, okay, what do we need to be able to put together this classroom? Let's say you have 20 kids in a classroom. We have 3 classrooms right now, right? 4 classrooms? 6 classrooms? Okay.
We have 12 sections and 6 classrooms.
So again, it's what's that, 25 kids per? So then we need another,
15
Yeah.
students on average, 20 is the legal max, 15 is the best practice for blended education.
so we need 18 more classrooms. Right? Yeah, something like that? Yeah, something, okay.
If we had every child in the 6 months.
Yeah, okay. I'm just like, this is the ceiling. So that's how and again, like when I was looking at this report and I was chatting with Nicole a little bit, she was kind enough to share with me some numbers. I know these are super tentative, just entered them into the public record, but nobody hold me to them because I haven't fact checked all this. But at least, I mean, that's how my mind works on this. So other questions, discussion on early childhood?
No, I'll go ahead, Alan.
No, I think it's just, I'm listening to a lot of what we're talking about. I think there's just, it sounds like there's some ambition to want to potentially grow the program, but there's challenges from a financial perspective, and then I guess a capital outlay for space as well. And there's probably a good use for discussion of what are our goals. We have legal requirements that we have to abide by, which of course we will. We want to go above and beyond and serve as many as we can, but we may have limitations. And so it sounds like today we're maxed out at South Prairie from a space standpoint, and then subsequently for students too.
For our current space, we're not maxed out on students that we can enroll. We can continue to enroll for the rest of the year, but we are maxed out on classroom space available right now.
Yeah. So I think as we plan forward, we have to take into account short term. That's a real limitation that we have, that we don't have necessarily great solutions for, perhaps. And then midterm, what are our goals and what do we need to do to try to achieve those? I think it's a good discussion for the board and the administration to have a discussion of generally.
Anything else on
I
this?
think it's something we should talk about more in the future.
Future agenda
Yeah,
item,
and
growing EC.
Growing EC, especially,
I really like
how could we,
Even
like
classroom
costing
by
options.
classroom, little by
Right.
little.
Chunk by chunk.
What it would take if we got another grant to get,
We like
There's
the
a lot
idea
of
though of
space.
growing EC.
there's a lot of space here.
I don't know, I guess I'd need more information. I like the concept.
You've got another T-shirt coming, Alex.
Yeah.
But, okay, so we'll do a future agenda item then for, and maybe this could be a good referral, or maybe this can be a full board. I'll think about it, and I'll get back to you guys for early childhood.
I really like this will just be a general comment for all these, but there's a lot of really good things to celebrate too. The grant that
Right.
a few got work to get, which is wonderful, but then also raising those concerns and emerging issues helps to give some context for us too. So I really appreciate that. I think that helps us learn as board members what's going on at the district level, and what we need to be talking about, what's important for us to consider. So I think there's a lot of really good value in all these, and I'm old school, I print them out to read and highlight, but it's helpful for me to absorb it all, so thank you.
Yeah, this is great. Anything else on early childhood? Okay, we'll move on to the next report, K5. Comments, points of inquiry.
I have another future agenda thing that sort of stems from this.
Go for it.
Could we see the option, and I don't want to say I endorse this or don't endorse it because I just don't know, the option of switching to, like we've talked about, attendance centers or hiring assistant principals or any combination would allow staff to focus on their assigned duties, so what their job description is, as opposed to have to sort of fill in gaps, and how that would improve student outcomes. So it's sort of what could we do at a K-5 level to ensure that staff are supported to do their jobs? And that could be shifting students around, potentially, probably not, or the assistant principals like the report alluded to.
So attendance centers was one, and assistant principals
Yeah,
was
but
another?
I think it's sort of an and, but like that agenda item, I think it's one topic.
It's like how to support.
Yes. So how to support the staff? What options do we have, and how much would it cost?
How to support. That's a pretty broad
It is a broad one. That might
one,
be a,
so we might have to zoom that one in a little bit, but support
Do you want to
staff.
make it broader? Because I could add some to it. Because I think we read the same concern. I think I just took the whole quote about staffing. It was a concern, or someplace in the report. So the ongoing shortage of lunch recess monitors, substitute teachers, and custodial staff is creating daily operational strain, leading to increased supervision conflicts, burnout among existing staff, and compromised. Oh, that was that this? That was this. There was something like that in this one. Yeah, that was this one. Okay.
Gives
And
them
then
the
I
board
have
support.
bolded. I have bolded under this. Just the question is, okay, how could we fix this, right? How
Yeah.
and that's what that agenda item is getting at, right? And there's a question of paying. Does it need to be? We need to pay lunch recess monitors more, or pay substitute teachers more? But Nick provided me with some literature on that basically says we're competitive with substitute teacher pay rate. So, is it so?
So it's a systemic
Right.
environmental issue that's across all
Or like what is
districts, or is
yeah.
it specific to us?
Yeah,
Because
and what does the literature say to try? Is there something to try? Because obviously this is an issue, but his agenda item is how can we support staff, and he was looking at it first from maybe you could free up staff with attendance centers, or you can new staff with assistant principals. But mine was even broader, but similar.
Nicole, do you know if we do like exit interviews when people leave, if if they give reason of why, if they were leaving for another district because of pay, or if it was,
We typically do not.
okay. Because sometimes that can be
Unless
helpful
it's
to understand.
voluntary with them, just
Okay.
coming in to chat with us, but we don't have anything formal. that we
Sure,
do.
sure.
So, sorry.
It just might be helpful to learn, it doesn't have to be a formal process by any means, but just to, hey, what's going on, or where are you going, might be helpful to understand, oh, many people are going because there's a higher paying job wherever, maybe within a school district or otherwise. I thought.
Well, one of our goals is the strategic plan to focus on attracting and retaining teachers, is what it says. I think
I
it
thought it
was
was
something
just
about
top
staff.
talent.
Yeah,
I
it could
didn't
be
think
top
it's
talent.
teachers.
This is a
Could be
deliverable here.
teachers,
I
okay.
could be, it may just need to be changed there. But yeah, I do remember it was related to staff. So one of the things, like having an update or at least what that looks like, because I know that is currently a board goal, but like seeing that culminate into maybe what we're talking about for learning and teaching, the FTE forecast. Does that connect?
I think it's all, yeah, it certainly does. I think it would be, we might be able to, as a board, come up with ideas that might be really helpful, but the staff might have a much better idea of what's working for retaining people or attracting them, or what's scaring them away. I know we read, I've read a lot here and heard elsewhere the word trauma, which is a startling word, but I think very accurate to what you see. And then we see some behavior incidents that are higher than they have been in past years. So I think we might be able to hypothesize some ideas, but those might just be very high level. So it might be helpful if there were some suggestions, not tonight, but in general, of what we could do to help support if there are things.
Yeah,
We could do it through LTC or we could do it elsewhere.
I mean, to me, I'm seeing it totally connect to our board goal. I mean, like, right? Like, wouldn't that be a deliverable for the board goal? Is just the strategic plan to focus on attracting and retaining staff?
I think it's beyond the plan implementation. What do we need to get this to happen?
Well, there's
It's
some,
what-
like to your point, Ellen, there's like some suggestions. And like Alex, what you were saying is like, what's it going to take to get it done? And like one of the things commented here that came up is assistant principals. You know, adding an assistant principal at each building would provide focused leadership to address these behavioral and safety needs, support staff in implementing interventions, allow principals to devote more time to instructional leadership, ultimately benefiting all students. Like I personally have long wondered why we don't have more assistant principals, or any for that matter, at the K-5 level. And the answers that I've gotten have been, well, that's just the way it's always been. So, I mean, I'm interested in, and again, if this is what our principals are submitting to us, and if our administration's also acknowledging, like, this is an opportunity for us, like, I don't see a reason why the board should take the foot off the gas and not look at entertaining, is that where the best spend is? Is that the most effective starting place? You know, how do we enhance support? So yeah, to your point, like, Alan, we could sit here and theorize a million ways to one. The experts gave us an answer.
True.
So I guess what say the board? Is this something that how do we put rubber to the road here?
Well, I mean, I think you do it as a future agenda item for a presentation for some kind of plan or set of plans that not only list the plan, but also outline the costs and opportunity costs associated with those plans. Right? I mean, the board lives in what's, and the administration lives in how's, and the what is, you know, fix the stated problems.
Mm-hmm.
And the hows are the implementation, and those implementations ought to be grounded in, you know, best practices literature and the experience that our administration team have, but they do sort of have to come as at least partially developed hows. And I would like that, you know, as well, to show the opportunity costs of those hows, because we do have a fixed amount of resources. And so if the literature indicates that given our, you know, fixed amount of resources, you're going to get the most bang for your buck to improve student outcomes by adding assistant principals, then if the burden, I mean, it's incumbent upon us to do that, right? But to Alan's point, we can't just sit here and say, let's add some assistant principals, you know what I mean? So some kind of future agenda item that is some kind of, you know, get a proposal or a pitch, or start to learn about, or have a brainstorm. I mean, am I making any sense?
Yeah, I think this definitely would be part of the budget process that we would bring to probably the business service committee Cole, do you agree?
I would think, yeah,
Start
could
there.
live there.
Yeah. That would be my suggestion. That's typically when we would have these discussions with the board.
So the deliverable, the intentions and expectations for the board goal: cultivate a measurable positive district climate that attracts, supports, and retains top talent with collaboration across the district. And then the deliverable on this is develop, present to the board, and execute a strategic plan to focus on attracting and retaining talent. And then there's, like, we talk about this happening hopefully by January of 2026, and then also having a survey regarding emerging trends, concerns, and priorities, using ISB approves alternative survey with 65% participation. Like, again, just tying this back to our goals and what we'd hope to see, at least in a deliverable, does this live under that
I would think.
in the mind of the board? Is that
And I'd assume, and I guess we haven't seen the survey, that the survey results from principals would indicate a desire for assistant principals. But I guess we don't have that data until we launch the survey. So it's sort of, the sequencing here, I'm not sure.
But that
I mean-
survey is going to be talking about retaining our current staff, correct?
I think it's attractive.
about-
Oh, the survey is current staff, but the
Yeah.
other goal he mentioned,
So I
the
think it's
HR.
two different,
Yeah.
yes, two different topics.
To me, this particular idea actually attaches to a bunch of different goals. It does, I think, you could call out attracting top talent, but you would also, it certainly relates to me to, I mean, the multi-year academic excellence plan. I mean, the idea is you're going to get better student outcomes. It's also going to relate to ensure all students feel safe at school, right? Like you're going to have better, more admin available to respond to more crises, et cetera. It's not like this matches one-to-one with a goal, but I do think this attaches to many of the goals.
I think we've broadened or we've narrowed maybe just to the assistant principals, but we started also talking about just general staff.
Right.
And they're real. I mean, the lunch monitors and recess monitors, substitute teachers, custodial staff, they're doing some really important work.
Absolutely.
And that's and everybody is, but I think that there's filling those positions that we know we have open that we aren't able to maintain, fulfilled. And then there's the potential of assistant principals as well. Both important, both should be discussed, but I just don't want to lose sight of there's this one as well.
right? And the way I'm reading this is it says the ongoing shortage of lunch recess monitors, substitute teachers, and custodial staff is creating daily operational strain, leading to increased supervision conflicts, burnout among existing staff, and compromised student safety and cleanliness standards. And then it goes on to talk about how disrupts learning environment, escalate behavioral issues, places undue pressure on teachers and administrators to fill roles outside their responsibilities. So I don't know if the problem, at least being put in this report, is that we need to do a better job attracting lunch recess monitors, substitute teachers, and custodial staff. I think the projection, at least from this, is there is just an ongoing shortage of these roles. And so it's creating a strain in these other positions. So I don't know that we should be chasing one problem over the other. I guess, and maybe I'm interpreting this board support update regarding staffing. Am I sizing this up?
Yeah, a lot of times when those types of positions, we don't have those people in a day or here or there, then
It's
it's
the principals.
up to us to take those over. So like if we don't have a sub for a classroom teacher, we're usually the only person available in the building that's certified to teach. So then we would step into that or piecemeal that job throughout the day. So that might take 2 hours away from me, or I have to cancel a goal meeting with a staff member because I'm subbing or something like that. And that's across the district. So it's not necessarily, it does all fit together, I guess, like you're saying. It's not necessarily we don't have those, but we don't have enough of those sometimes to support all of our kids in all of the spots.
Gotcha. Does that clarify
I
maybe
mean,
a
do
little
you
bit?
feel you have enough direction to get to work with Nick or Nicole to create some? And Nicole mentioned bringing some stuff to business services, so I think she's got some idea. But do you two seem to have enough of understanding to kind of move this forward to get some pitches for next steps type of?
Yeah, I think there's a nice follow up here, at least that I have tied to a board goal, so we're staying in our lane, but also related to this maybe opportunity. So.
What about the attendance centers? I brought that up because I've heard it from staff several times. It wasn't one of my ideas.
Attendance centers?
Yeah. Is there a desire out there for that? Is it worth entertaining? Is it worth researching?
I'd be
along with
interested
this?
in just a report on it. I don't know about.
They said they're nodding. No? Yeah? Maybe?
Well, we talked about when we redistricted, we presented that information to you at that time, and we can't fit all of them into your elementaries at that point because of the size. So unless when we were designing out North Grove, we talked about it way back then. And at that time, the community wanted us to have community schools. At that point, then we looked at it when we redistricted, and we showed you that we couldn't physically fit all the grades that we wanted to in those buildings to bring that in for that part. So that, if you go back to the one, if you look at the redistricting ones, what, 2 years now? Those slides were all in there. We talked about that, and then we showed you where we would move the houses then to redistrict. Again, what, 3 years? You guys look at redistricting again to spread the students one more time if you needed to because of how the demographics of our town change.
Okay, so maybe an updated report, just recapping some of the information we already have accessible.
Because most of us weren't even there for the redistricting initially.
Great.
I think, Michael, you were the only one that was.
Don't quiz me on it.
So, yeah.
No, that sounds great. So maybe just an update then on what we already know and what we might or should maybe know going forward. So, okay. Anything else for the K-5 report? Do you speak fish? I had to read that one just to get updated. I was like, man, I was thinking it was a different book, but it wasn't. So it was still a good read though. Added it to my Charlie library. So if you haven't read it, you should. It's cute. No, nothing else?
No.
Okay. Great, we'll move on to the next report, which is SMS. All right. Any comments on the middle school report? I just top brow love a good chart. Notice the drop or decline in number of incidents it said compared to last year, which is, again, just kind of like when you see that big of a number drop, almost makes you wonder what was the cause or why. So I don't know. Interesting, but
I think the goals. I thought there was a good addition. Some of the goals and incorporating the district goals there. Also mentioned filling open positions. I'm not sure if it's a similar challenge or might be a good thing just to better understand filling positions in general at the school levels.
yeah, right. It just filling open. I see that as a.
And that's for our math interventionists. You know, it's been posted since the beginning of August, and no viable applicants for that position. We are presenting one internally, but we can't move that person over because that opens up a classroom inside the building. We did that last year when we moved the math teacher from my building. The high school, we were never able to find a teacher for that spot, which then we had a long-term sub fill in, which then another long-term sub had to come in to fill that person because they only thought it was going to be temporary. Mid-year leaves or beginning close to the school year, we just don't have applicants filling for regular certified jobs. It just makes it tough at that point. And so we got some retirees coming up, like how we need to get them out early is what I'm just looking for, because historically we always waited later in the game and we miss out on applicants because they've already taken jobs in other districts in April, May, and if we post them in June and July, we've missed a whole set of people for the market. So that was just me putting it in to let you guys know. If we know some things ahead of time, if we can post them earlier, that would really greatly help us get to that point of getting some great candidates coming to this district again.
Yeah, I think that speaks really well. So we have the LTC meeting on November 11th, And one of the topics that we're going to talk about is FTE planning. And that goes really well in line. If we know we have those positional needs, we may choose not to have to wait till the June timeframe, and maybe that April makes a lot of sense, or whatever
Right.
the timeframe that may be.
I mean, even earlier, right? I think this year we posted some positions in April or early May, and those, I think, some of them didn't get filled ultimately. And I've heard just hearsay. I don't know if this is actually true, but if you want to be competitive, you want to post them even earlier.
Like in January.
January,
When we went down
February.
to ISU last year, February, we had people around us interviewing on the spot
Right.
for the candidates. We were there attracting them, taking all these resumes. We couldn't interview because we knew spots were coming, but since they weren't posted, we weren't able to snag some people from that one. And there was 250 districts there, you know, it was
Lots of
it was
competition.
one time, but it'd be nice to be able to find some ones right there too, like the rest of the districts were.
So having those conversations in February is early enough?
I think for retirees, you gotta talk a little bit earlier, like in January, they're being posted, so when we go to the February open houses at the universities, we're able to attract the next generation of the young teachers coming into us. We're able to find teachers other directions if you can kind of competitive wise through the contract and salary and benefit packages that way, but the young teachers they're excited at these job opportunities they have, and they're interviewing right on site and, you know, offering second rounds, then to come back to meet the rest of the staff from there, and then boards are approving them from that point if we look at it that way.
And when you
So
say
it's just the ones that are retiring that you kind of know you are gonna fill, but then there are some chances with retirees to be able to change where some of that goes, which is the budget process we go through with Nicole. Because not always do you fill some of those same spots with the same people, if that makes sense that way.
Yeah, so the retiree filling, that's just.
There's no
we should
constraint
be-
on that.
Yeah, we should just be
unless we see some
posting that,
large shift,
right, I mean,
Right.
we should see that.
because for FTE planning, I know what you're saying, and I think business services has a similar recommendation about trying to project some stuff out, and, but it would seem that we could be posting those as soon as humanly possible, right?
Right,
I got that on
right,
the list.
All right.
I'll talk with Nick.
yep.
Yeah, I like the comment about the SROs, kind of changing gears a little bit about Officer Raven Burris. And it was interesting because I know that I recently saw some legislation change about what SROs are to be doing and not doing in terms of like ticket writing.
Mm-hmm.
And so to make it into this report though, from my understanding, the SROs, it seems like it says spend 50% of time working on relationships, work with the dean and administrative team, require expertise in police work, other 50% helping with the elementary level situations. I know we have, as a district our size, we have 2 SROs, and I think NASRO recommends between 4 and 7 SROs, National Association for School Resource Officers. So we have 2.
Based off our size.
Based off you could go 2 metrics. You could go based on per 1,000 students. So 3,600 students, you have 3.6 SROs, 4 SROs. Or you could go based on 1 per school, which is their other guidance, and that's 7. Now, that's, a pipe dream. I think DeKalb has 5 SROs, if I'm not mistaken. They have 6,000 students. So DeKalb's a different school than us, but, they have more resources in a lot of ways. But even still, I think that's just an interesting thing to have brought up, their collaboration. Because I think when people think of school resource officers, maybe they don't fully understand the broad and scope of the responsibilities that they have. I think another interesting thing about the school resource officers is that we have an intergovernmental agreement with the city that has a shared cost to school resource officers. And so school resource officers and our collaboration with the city of Sycamore go hand in hand, unlike something that we may have complete domicile over, like just number of paraprofessionals or what have you. So
What's our cost share with the city of Sycamore?
75%, 25%.
Who, we pay 75%?
We pay
for the
75%,
SROs?
and they pay 25%.
Is that typical across other districts? Do you know?
Huntley has I had a nice opportunity to talk with Huntley at the last quarterly meeting for IASB. They have a 50-50 split with their city. A lot of other districts have a 50-50 split. We've had, I believe, this intergovernmental agreement or version of it very close to it since the 70s. So every school district's different, of course, different needs, things like that. But as I understand it, those are the splits. Other questions?
So if they're not writing tickets, what are they doing now to address these issues?
Yeah, so I had an opportunity actually to have a meeting with Stacy Binkowski a few months ago, and she talked to me for a few hours. We got to talking, and she was just sharing with me a really this pretty terrifying story of an instance where she identified like a student safety issue related to self-harm, and she was able to address that student safety issue and like sort of, I guess the insights and the connections that she had from her perspective were different enough where she was able to get involved very early and then report it through the proper chain of command and ultimately, as she described it, save the student's life. So I think like a big part of at least what school resource officers are doing, and I know they came in and Dooley came in and gave a nice presentation about the emotional support, and I think in one of the reports that Meg gave, she had brought up how supportive Dooley was, especially in this time of tragedy that we've had, but where some of the school resource officers can offer a lot of emotional building support tied to our board goal of ensuring all students feel physically and emotionally safe at schools. It seems like there might be an opportunity there. So at least that, and again, I know there's a lot that I probably didn't cover about what SROs do, but I know that a big part of it is early identification of safety concerns for students to other students and then students to themselves too. So, but I'm by no means an expert. I'm just using empirical data, reaching, as I quote to you NASRO stats, right? It's just like,
Mark.
They still write reports, and so those reports that come up, so the ticket can't come out of it, but they still bring them down. They can bring them still down to the station, have talk, try to put the, kind of a little bit of you did something that you can't write everything, but there's still a lot of report writing that goes on from our level and the high school level as they go in and bringing the parents outside school time and those discussions and having in. So, of course, part of the state laws that now they can't get a ticket to kind of put a little oomph behind it, but still, I think going down to the police station kind of still puts that factor in that lets them know that if you do this outside of our doors, this is what's going to happen. Those reports are still there, and they can kind of lead up to some other things that they can do some things for the SRO work that way. So there's a lot of still report writing behind the scenes between the high school, middle school, and then some instances that occur at the elementaries as well.
There's a share of information between both us and them that is huge for us in being able to identify issues and get insights that we may not have in situations, or we have insights that they may not have in situations. And I know Dan, Officer Ludwig, is very adamant about the relationship he's able to build with our students while they're there, so when they become citizens of Sycamore, there's a positive relationship with our police force too. So as we look at goals of creating citizens in our community, that's a positive step.
I know something that like with all the soft lockdowns we've had feels like just like a student safety, especially being a board goal, but I don't know, it's one of those things that like you can be reactive to it or you can be proactive. And I don't know that there's like a fix-all to keep all the students safe all the time. But I think that there is in fact a lot of information to support that like there is a direct correlation between student safety incidences and just sheer numbers of staff able to support that. And I don't know that there is a better method, proven method, to protect students than SROs. So that's something that at least is line of sight in my purview. So I don't know if anybody
Yes, SROs are great. It's just unfortunate that there's less consequences, which is going to lead to probably more crime in the future because there wasn't a consequence here. So when they go out there and they don't get in any trouble or don't have really a consequence, I think it's very dangerous and unfortunate that legislation was passed. I guess that's all I can say about it. But this SORs are great. I mean, I know the ones we saw come in, it's nothing against them, but
Didn't the report say that the incidents are going down?
Yeah, significantly.
So I
there's-
guess that's not really like a bad thing that they can't write tickets because it's not a direct correlation between consequence and action.
The incidents are going down for the
Year to
middle
date,
school or the high school?
Middle
middle
school.
school, yeah. Year to date, it was 170. Last year, same year to date, 204, and the year prior, 285.
From
Total incidents.
at least from looking at Meg's report on student services, so like the middle school's behavioral report was interesting to show the kind of the decrease, but the student services, just jumping over for a second, actually showed an uptick in behavioral issues.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I guess that's where I'm getting confused at.
Yeah, so I think, I don't know if there's maybe just across the board, maybe the middle school's kind of an anomaly, but at least it looked like there would be more issues of behavioral needs than fewer. So,
So are we thinking about any type of future agenda item related to this, or are we just
we're just toasting a discussion.
Okay. No, just
There's not a lot we can do because it's the legislation. Unless we try to change the law, but.
Well, there's probably a lot more that goes on to maintaining the schools than just the ability to write tickets. I think there's a lot that's
This is true.
Anything else on the, what do we have, middle school reports? Okay. High school, there's a couple of topics I know that are of particular interest, one of which is graduation requirements. Just jump right to it, but anybody have any comments on high school's report before we address that? Notes.
Besides grad requirements, no.
Well, we have a goal related, academic goal related to pass rate, and we have the lowest number of total Fs in the past 4 years, which I thought was encouraging, really good. I'm not sure what's driving that, but I think that's in line with what we're trying to succeed and work towards. So that's really encouraging to see. I know that on the concern side, we didn't have anything listed, but I know it's come up multiple times that the facility itself may be a concern in itself. So I think just continued discussion. I know there's on the facility side, there's the 5-year facility plan, but my guess is that's probably an area of concern that we need to keep top of mind.
I think it was figured that one goes without saying.
Very well could be, yeah.
So graduation requirements. There's a whole separate PowerPoint here, which is great, and just want to say thank you to Brian for putting this together. Everybody has access to this, but I'll just pull it up here. From what it says, right, ISB, 16 credits required, so 4 are ELA, 3 are math, 2 are science, 2 are social studies. Sycamore's requirements are 20. We have a Y as previously set by the district and BOE, and it exceeds the minimum expectations. And then the KPIs, or local school credit requirements, so it lists Sycamore as 20, LaSalle Peru is 23, Ottawa is 40, Caneland is 22, Rochelle is 22, Morris is 22, Burlington 20.5, Genoa is 25, Geneva is 20.5, Oswego is 22, Barrington's 20.5. I think DeKalb is 25, Genoa is 25 too. I didn't see.
I think DeKalb might be 23.
23. Is DeKalb 23? Yeah, I didn't see.
Also, maybe some of these numbers are a little bit old, but because Burlington, based on what I saw, is actually 23 and a half. So some of the really low ones on here are actually higher. Barrington is truly 20.5, but like Burlington, I think I saw was 23 and a half, but some of the other
I think they're actually moving down.
Are they moving down?
Yeah.
Oh, maybe you're ahead of me. All right.
I think they're moving down, and Ottawa is 40, but that's actually per class, so that's actually comparable to Sycamore.
And also, I thought I saw that Genoa. I know they're blocked, but I think Genoa this has without the PE. I think with the PE, they're 28 and a half on block because we're 20 with PE, right?
Correct.
So they're Also, Genoa has 25 hours of community service baked into their grad requirements too. And they have a 93% graduation rate, and we were at 94, so no difference in my opinion there.
Yeah, I really like the community service requirement. I brought that up at a past board meeting. Didn't get very far, so I'm gonna bring it up now, and I hope it gets very far.
Our students do community service.
Yeah, I mean, it seems.
We're a very community service oriented community.
Well, this like goes back to the whole like, what do graduation requirements say about what our priorities are for the portrait of a Spartan? Like, you know, and I think that there's some interesting data here too with the like 20 credits. I think you'd put down 5 students, like 20 to 22 at 36. Like so, and the way I like pulled information from this was that while the bar may be 20, there are a majority of students who are exceeding the bar, right? That's kind of the
Yeah, those other KPIs that I put in that presentation just kind of show you where our average number of credits are for each of the 3 classes that I have been here in Sycamore. Obviously, this is my 4th year, so I don't know what this class will look like, but those average numbers are kind of on par. You can see the range of credits. It's kind of been on par for the past couple of years, and just the different breakdown of where students land as far as credits that they earn at the high school.
some of the benefits were academic to increasing graduation requirements.
So
or
can
was it
I
adjusting?
just put a note in on the list of where it's like, okay, 20 credits, 5 students, 20 to, well, depending on which year you're looking at, but it's broken in. People, you can look at this PowerPoint. It's up, could be up there.
Just assume everyone has it.
Yeah, so 20 credits, 8 students are only there. 20 to 22 credits, 30 students are there. 22 to 24 credits, 67 students are there. And that's who, to me, a policy like increasing graduation requirements would serve. It's not the students who are already exceeding those, it's those. And I've done a bit of a deep dive on this, but Gene Bottoms was president of the Southern Regional Education Board. He's contributed a lot of pieces to the National Association of Education Boards, published pretty frequently. He's a big CTE guy too. He's, he's thinking about basing local accountability systems on the principle of valuing college readiness and career readiness equally. He says we ought to set accountability standards for graduation from college and career readiness higher than those set by the state. Now we are, but local area. And then do not undervalue students by holding them to lower readiness standards. And the idea there is if DeKalb is graduating people at 23 credits and Genoa is at 25 credits, when our people go to look for careers with our high school diploma, it's those with just the 20 and 22 credits who are going to potentially be outcompeted by people with a degree where they've got more credits. If you go back to a 2004 article in the Harvard Journal of Economics, I can give it to you if you want, but you can draw a fairly clear line between increased class taking and future earnings. It's a little bit fuzzier than that. It's super clear if you go to math, but not that I'm saying that's what we ought to do, but it's pretty clear across the board. And again, to me, like you're really serving the students who are maybe going to go right into a career out of high school by lowering the floor. But the emphasis always, according to some of the literature I found, has to be on career readiness and college readiness, hopefully at the same time. And you can, build out these pathways. And you can't just lift the floor. There's lots of literature on you have to build supports around them and make sure they've got the resources provided to them. And then there are carve-outs in basically the law and everybody's policy I could find that says students with IEPs, they can have different graduation requirements or whatever is necessary for them. So you can fairly clearly see where I stand on the issue. But that's sort of my thoughts are, it seems to be what the people around us are doing. As far as I can tell, it'd be best practices. And to me, it's going to serve our students in the long run and in the short run.
Well, my question is do those other schools have the same trade opportunities we have here? Because I learned that you can get your pilot's license here. I don't think you could do that in Genoa.
I don't know. Yeah.
So
doesn't that count for credit too? Would be
that's a career ready opportunity.
Yeah, I don't think you can have one. I don't think that you can have one without the other. I think there's a scenario where you can have both.
Yeah.
Right. I just think that's something that Learning and Teaching Committee could maybe take a more
I was going to say, I think
come up with a recommendation. Or
I think that's a great place for it to start, for sure. I think part of the discussion is graduation requirements. Somebody mentioned community service. It's really, what do we as a district want our students to have when they graduate so that they're as ready for whatever the future brings as possible. So it could be classroom related, it could be community service, it could be you name it. And I think that's the job of maybe LTC, probably certainly the board has to work towards that, but others too, is what are the real goals? What's the vision of what we want a Sycamore Spartan, who's hopefully the portrait of a Spartan, to move forward and graduate with? And is it the 20 credit hours that we have today? Is it 20 plus community service? Is it 20 plus additional credit hours? There's certainly a good argument to be said that credit hours certainly plays into that, but are there other things that we want to consider? So I'd be happy to take that to LTC. That is a topic, because this has kind of come up here and there along the way, that we talked about continuing that discussion, and we could work towards a proposal, but this is also something that probably takes some time to try to determine. And then if you decide to make changes, you being all of us, we have to figure out what's the impact, right? So are there additional teachers or other support staff that's required, and what does it look like? So I think it's definitely something we can start with if you'd all like, from the LTC perspective.
I think that's a good conversation to have.
What even is a credit hour? Like, what classes do they all get? Are they all the same amount of credit hours? Are they not? Are, like, as Heather said, is KEC and the KISH exploration programs, do those count towards student credits?
Sure.
Is the amount of time physically spent at KISH the same, racking up the same amount of credit hours as if they're in, let's say, a calculus classroom? I just don't have that information. I think we need to first understand sort of our baseline and then build up from there.
Yeah, I think that's...
The credit is similar, the weight of that class would vary though, from those different scenarios that you were sharing.
I guess just sort of seeing that would help.
I think it would be interesting also to revisit KEC, what's going on with that program. In addition to, for the future.
Alan, to your point about how this takes a long time to do, I've got a trivia question for Mark Ekstrom, who was being historian earlier. Here's the headline from the Daily Chronicle. What's the year Sycamore District 427 begins talks for new high school graduation requirements? I'm just like putting you on the spot because earlier you were the historian. I know actually.
I know. Well, it's come up several times.
Yeah, that's a.
And I will tell you.
And how many times
I
have you
am,
changed it?
so it's okay. Yeah, no, it's come to your board. I've been here since '99. It's come to you numerous times. And
We've changed it every time, right?
No.
Not a single time, right? Not a single time in 25 years have we changed it once.
No, exactly. So
Wow.
it's come to you guys, and then.
Like I knew the answer to that question.
Yeah. And some of it is because of your lower, like you talked about, that you have a whole group of people that really struggle to get to the 20 and coming in. The hard part is, being a former high school teacher was in the vocational program, if you don't have it high enough, then you can't attract a set of kids because they're like, I got my 20 credits, I don't need any more. Well, here's a chance for free to take classes to explore careers here compared to trying to figure out what you're going to do at a 4-year university and coming in. So that part, I think, is, when you raise it up, that you actually get more kids your junior, senior, not taking as many study halls and trying to, leaving school, at 1 o'clock and being done with the new policies. We weren't able to do all that back when I was there in the old days. But you just didn't have the kids, like they would take 2 study halls or 3 study halls, and they missed out on a chance to learn some other things that we had some great stuff in that building. I mean, your building was, built for a lot of CTE, and we just didn't put the funds. My job for the last 5 years before this one was to keep the kitchens up and going. Your early childhood now is, for attendance coming in, that was a beautiful early childhood center in there. The sewing room now became the board room. At least cooking's come back now through the ag classes there, so the kitchen, but that kitchen is so out of date with everything in there to be able to do some of the things that you need to do with that kitchen. So, yeah, but it hasn't changed in 25 years. Yes,
It's come up four times. Yeah.
Yeah, 20 is what has stayed. So
Just to add to what Mark said, that's initially why that presentation I created it last year, because some of our staff at the high school were saying our kids are taking multiple study halls or lounges or flexes. So I was just genuinely curious, how many credits are those kids earning? So they were actually earning, I can't remember what the exact average is, but it was close to the class average for each of those classes, that students that were taking multiple off periods were actually earning 24, 25 credits.
Well, it's like goes to the portrait of a graduate. I know we've talked about it. It hasn't gotten super far, but I'm curious, because I think this does go to the portrait of a graduate piece, which is like, who do we want to walk out with a diploma? What does that look like? And how inclusive is that process going to be? And will it mean that this is number 5 where we pick it up and set it down and do nothing to it? So
Well, it's not always appreciated when you're 17 or 18. It's your last opportunity to have a free education to whatever course
Right.
they choose.
Right.
After that, unfortunately, there's costs associated.
Oh, I know that.
And so there's something to
Right,
be considered, right?
Right, definitely to be considered. And can you imagine somebody that sat in study hall and got all these credits and then they want to go into a program which requires a lot of math in college? It's probably who comes into your class.
We get all types.
So, yeah, it is something really to talk about.
One of the numbers that, the KPIs that you pointed out, Brian, that I think would be good for the LTC is the percentage of students that are less than like the 21 credit hours. I know that it says the percentage of, that have IEPs, early graduation, KC students, or night school students. How many of those are maybe the IEP students? Just to kind of understand, because I know there is that concern of are we are we giving all students a good chance to graduate? But understanding those differences, maybe a little bit more parsed out, might be really helpful.
Well, that's where it would come in to be important when, I mean, if you can't pass at the high school level math classes, should you be going into a very expensive college program? I mean, that's when you would direct to a trade. Because, you know, plumbers make a lot of money. In fact, there's a plumber shortage. So there's a lot of other things people could do if they're already not excelling at the high school level and then they go into an advanced program in college and pay a lot of money for it. You know, back to what you said about this is their last chance to, you know, like a proving ground. So a little more should be required, I feel, just so they would know where they're at before they go into a college program and spend a lot of money on it.
Well, different college programs have different criteria because my social work program, I don't have to take math classes, and I'm terrible at math.
Well, yeah, so you
know,
would know not
there's
to
different,
not to
right?
take
So
that.
there's different college criteria.
But you
so
probably
it's
knew
with
that by
interest.
high school.
It's
correct?
yeah, it's
That,
with interest.
oh, I'm not gonna go into,
There's a
well,
lot of late bloomers, I think.
I know because
They
my
tend to go
son,
one way.
my son has he teaches higher level at the college.
Yeah.
And he has people that don't even know what they're doing, and he doesn't even understand why they're in the class. He has like advanced calculus, and they don't even know the simple basics for calculus. So this is what I'm talking about.
So it sounds like there's a lot of interest in exploring this further. We can absolutely, I mean, I'm not the one to say we shouldn't talk about it any longer, but we can certainly talk about it more now. But I'm more than happy to take it back to LTC to have more discussion.
Definitely.
We won't get it determined on November 11th, but we can start that discussion. We can determine how we want to explore it further if we want to. 4 times in 25 years. It sounds like this is the 5th time. It's an important topic that should be revisited whether we change it or not, but we definitely should discuss it. It sounds like there's quite a bit of interest for potentially looking to raise the bar, but we need to maybe explore and understand a little bit further.
Can we send a survey out to students and see how they feel about the classes they're taking, how they would feel if they had more opportunities for advancement? I mean,
HY actually surveyed and the students responded, and there was some interesting feedback we got from that survey related to the quality of the education they were receiving. I thought one of the
Was it
comments,
positive or negative?
from my recollection, there was a lot of positive feedback about the offerings, and I think there was some interest in more rigor. But again, that was not geared towards like this. I certainly think part of our board goals is, you know, conducting a survey of all of our stakeholders to get a better feel of where there's needs. So yeah, definitely on the more.
I mean, I'm gonna see 2 L&T topics. One, increasing credit hours, and second, I really like Beth's idea of student sort of career planning. I'm not sure how they're sort of intertwined, but they're also, in my opinion, separate.
I think part of, I don't know, but my thought would be that for the graduation requirements, one of the stakeholders that we would want to engage with would be the school counselors and where their perspective is, which would probably go in line somewhat with career counseling and moving forward in that regard. And again, it's not all academic credit hours. It could be we want to ensure that you have one 30-minute session with somebody on career counseling, or we want just
Like I don't,
Right.
when I was a student, I don't
That's
recall having
important.
that. So I think that's something that would be very beneficial.
But
Yeah,
again, we have to
career
understand what's
planning
the
for sure.
impact, right? We have
Yes,
to understand what the
exactly.
impact is, and so lots of discussion to be had, but it's the vision of what do we think a graduate at Sycamore High School should.
It's the portrait of a graduate.
The portrait of a graduate. Yes, exactly.
We coined it. We said it. I don't know where and Nick's not here to speak to it because I'm sure he'd have an answer, but I know it's somewhere sitting on someone's desk right now. It's waiting for the next piece of progress. So, Cole, you had something? No?
Oh, I mean, you know, good at math, bad at math, love math, hate math. The point is we want to serve all of our students the best we possibly can. And it seems to me that increasing graduation requirements is going to improve people's college and career readiness wherever they want to go, wherever they want to end up. And it's going to be doing our students the best possible service to prepare them for their futures, whatever that might be.
I agree. All right, so we'll talk about it at Learning and Teaching.
Yes.
Great.
Sounds good.
Okay. Anything else?
November
11.
11.
Armistice Day.
Yeah.
Wow, okay. 11.
So there were some looking ahead future focus pieces in the high school report, course scheduling for SY 27. I know Learning and Teaching is talking about that too. Anything else out of that? I know that was the big one. Had its own PowerPoint. So thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah, that was really good.
Building and grounds.
Okay, Ben, really good.
Go to building and grounds here. Where is it? There's a lot on building and grounds.
There is a ton. Yeah, it was great.
Marvelous.
Is there anyone?
Good job, Scott.
Scott's not here, is he?
Still here?
Oh, there he is. Sorry.
He's quiet in the
Guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've been talking about building and grounds for, it feels like a year and a half. Jeez, too much. So
It's a lot of work. A lot of great.
I mean, I don't want to beat the same drum over and over again. I think we're well underway. It sounds like, you know, you've got a good handle on this. The age and obsolescence planning. I mean, yeah, that's.
Yeah, how's that? What's top of mind age and obsolescence planning wise?
Well, I think it's all just the equipment that we have within the district, making sure we have a timeline of when we can cycle those out and have those budgeted, so it doesn't come to where it breaks down and we're scrambling around and I have to go to Nicole and ask for more money to get this done, that we can kind of cycle these out and what their lifespan actually is.
And it made it sound like there's a document that's extant or will be eventually.
It's in the works.
Okay.
Yes, in the works.
That sounds great. And then I did on the preventive maintenance schedule. Are you going with manufacturer manuals or for the schedules, or what are you going
We're
with?
just utilizing our building techs around that we can do with changing filters, looking at drains, light bulbs, just, you know, multiple, utilizing incident IQ for tickets to go out, just to give reminders for them to be able to check that, to be able to save some money for outside vendors doing that work.
And providing those professional development opportunities for our own staff, so we can utilize them instead of hiring out.
Yeah. And is that document extant also, the preventive maintenance
It's
schedule?
kind of within incident IQ.
Okay.
So that's our ticketing system, so those tickets are been going out throughout the year.
Is there a way to measure the success of the implementation? Like, does it show you like number of incidents like before and then like as you implement like I would imagine that would be something that from like a data standpoint, like you could see, well, because we've implemented this level of preventative maintenance, we've seen the number of incidents drop X-fold. And like there's got to be some, and again, working in insurance, like preventative maintenance is like risk management. That's like the whole half of my job. So it's interesting because there is like a bell curve between like preventative, like when you get to the point of, well, preventative maintenance starts to see diminishing returns to like incidences. And then you talk about like, where does redundancy make sense or not? So do you like, does that software, does it give that level of, like, can you, I guess, is there a way to see a correlative trend between preventative and incident occurrence?
Yeah, that software's still fairly new, and I think that's something we could definitely dive into, and I think it will give reports like that, so that's something I can look into for sure.
Yeah, we've not had it for a year yet, so, but definitely I think that's something that we can look at once we've had that under our belt for a while.
Typically, when I've seen preventative maintenance plans implemented, you see a spike in the number of tickets because maybe we weren't as proactive as we could be. But over time, you see like service calls go down, repair part costs going down. I don't know if we account for those on line items to be able to track over time if we're seeing a benefit for that work. But that's a typical way that I've seen it in the past. not at a school district level, but elsewhere.
So it's the software that's creating the schedule?
But I'm sure you probably do, but you might track like backlog, like we might have 50 tickets open. Are we achieving the 50 or did we get to 40 and we have 10 in backlog, so to speak? Are we able to keep up with that PM schedule or not? So I'm sure.
I think it depends on the time of the year too.
Sure.
At the beginning of the year, I think our staff are super busy getting the buildings open and stuff like that, so they're not focusing necessarily on those preventative maintenance tasks. But then as we get further into the year, and then we hit winter, when we're out snow plowing and doing all that, you might see those go down a little bit more, but yeah, I think it fluctuates definitely.
I'm not sure this is this topic or the BSA recommendation, but I think it would be helpful at a committee level to like sort of kick out health, life, safety costs, or if there are any, and see that separately from just the facilities plan. Like really highlight this is a safety issue, or this could be fixed with HLS bounds potentially. It's just a thought.
Like a filter for health life.
Kinda, yeah.
I mean, it'll be interesting to see, like, I think in January that report, because I know that the 10-year health life safeties have those categories. You could see the health life safety, but you're saying like what we actually choose to.
Yeah, like are we going to complete, if we get any HLS findings, when will we complete those specifically? Because they're sort of elevated in terms of importance.
It depends on what it
State
is,
says they
but
are.
typically we address those pretty quickly when we get them.
Mm-hmm.
So those are usually done right away.
Oh, okay. So there's not like a $10 million backlog we're anticipating
No.
at the elementary levels for, okay. Okay, well that's good.
I want to just commend you guys too. In the report I read, the team handled the removal of old furniture and prepared the new 52,000 square foot administrative building for occupancy. Using district staff to clean and organize the new facility resulted in savings of more than $63,000. So good on you guys.
You deserve a hand for that.
Yeah, I know. I saw the number of. I mean, it was like a football field in there of cubicles.
Yeah.
It's like I don't know where you guys put them all.
It's starting to feel real cozy in here. Like,
Yeah,
you
and
can
our
feel
staff did all
the-
the work,
yeah,
so we
Yeah.
put our
feel it.
blood, sweat, and tears in this building, so we definitely,
It's a nice building. It's gonna be good for the district when.
I mean, you can see the cost savings. I just underlined them all, and you're right. There's quite a few areas where we've gone above and beyond here, and to really try to save the district some money, which has been really much appreciated. It's really great.
So anyway, I think the agent obsolescence and the PM scheduling, that would be a business services interest, so especially as seeing what you come up with for your obsolescence study. So thank you.
Anything else for building and grounds? So much to come in January. So, okay, we'll move on.
Nicole, there's no depreciation schedule for items, right? Do we?
So we do a fixed asset report every year with a third-party company through our liability insurance. So that does have depreciation in that report.
So there is at least from an accounting perspective, a
Yes.
lifespan.
Yeah, and that is part of our audit too. Our auditors look at that every year as well.
So communications, just quick update. I had an opportunity to sit down with Lauren and go through, because so you can probably tell some of these scripted remarks I've had some help with from professionals. So Lauren's been kind enough to help and share some of the information that we've been doing. One of the comments here was just talking about maybe sharing some more about what the work, what work the board is working on, how we can communicate more effectively with the public. One of the items that came up in our discussion was just policy 810, connection with the community, public relations, and like our policy versus press. There's a really big difference between standard policy and our policy. Ours is much shorter and less detailed, so maybe there's an opportunity there. I know that that's indicated in the board support update. maybe better aligning to just the standard press policy versus, so I was thinking for a future agenda item, maybe having that.
It's on the agenda, I believe.
Great. Some other pieces, I know we've all seen the walk in their shoes, highlighting the students and Spartans and updates on that. So that's been great. Other comments on the communications report? There's a few other things I've got here, but I'll stop talking. Something we're talking about doing is a quarterly update from the board, and that would look like something you'd see in November, where we would just share some of the milestones, just kind of top line. This is what the Board of Education did or talked about, and this is why you should care. Lauren's been sharing some helpful insights about what that could look like and how we could effectively communicate. I think a big piece that the board can work on is being able to communicate effectively with its stakeholders, so that way there's no gaps in messaging, so that way people understand better what they can do, what we do, and how that all works together. So some information forthcoming.
When HYA was here, they were saying that we have a rather large communications department. Is that something that we're concerned about, or are we comfortable with where we're at?
Were you talking about in the survey or like?
I just remember her mentioning something about, she repeated herself a couple of times about how large our communications department was and how many people we had on staff for that.
I had an opportunity to talk with, Lauren and I talked about just the makeup of communications too. And I know that I think there's probably some confusion about what is or who is composed in that. And I think a big part of it is like where the Spartan TV and where Spartan TV is one component, Club Advisor, and then there's also a component for, oh goodness, I'm trying to go off.
Auditorium director
What's that?
also falls under Lauren, is not necessarily communications itself, but they fall under the communications department as well.
One of the things that caught my eye, sorry, I don't.
No, yes.
One of the things that caught my eye was related to the working with the HR department on their strategic plan from a department standpoint, which is interesting. I don't know, do we do that in each of the departments? Do they? There's a comment on actions and events milestones about working with the HR department on their strategic plan, and I thought, well, it would be interesting over time to understand what's the strategic goals of each of the departments, communications, but then HR, and I thought that was really nice to see, and I just don't know if that's something that we do typically across all the departments or not, but just an interesting, nice thing to see, I guess.
Yeah. Well, it came up once already, the HR strategic plan is a board goal, developing an HR strategic plan for focusing and attracting and retaining staff, so. Anything else?
Yeah, on Alan's note, I think I had a really similar comment. I just I assume they're doing it. Comms is presumably supporting all the other initiatives, because basically all the other initiatives or problems we've talked about can in some way, shape, or form be supported by comms. And we haven't gotten to some of these, but like food services jobs or growing the Oscar, advertising that we want to grow the Oscar program.
Right.
When the time comes that we decide EC needs to grow, right, that's going to be like a lot. So comms is very involved in all the other departments. So I think that's kind of what you're getting at, right?
Yeah, just the goals of the department. Who are we trying to speak to and for what purposes?
I don't have anything else on communications. Anything else? No. Great. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Food services, 1,500 apples. I saw.
Yes,
1,500.
that sounds right.
Yep, this was the second year that we did the Great Apple Crunch with coordination of our food service department, and John Mack Orchard provided the apples for us.
John Mack's the best.
So we drove our van out there and picked up all the apples, brought them back, and distributed them to each class, K-5, or actually pre-K-5.
It's a fan favorite. At my house, it's a fan favorite, at least, yeah.
So cute.
Yeah, there's more of the same here. Staffing shortages. I mean, I think we've talked about that already, right? There was something on here about creating student taste panels. I was wondering how we're going to operationalize that. Like are we going to do something like that? That's pretty
Yeah,
cool.
so Sophie already has some plans to implement that, probably mostly at our middle school and high school levels.
Cool.
And that way we can get feedback from those students as well.
I wasn't as familiar with the potential for state level universal free meals. Is how likely, do we have any sense of how, I mean, I know that there's no way to know how
Yeah.
legislation might vote, but is it moving
It's
through?
out there, yeah.
What would be the, I guess I'd be curious, can the kitchen support that if we decided, if that were to come to fruition, I wonder. I mean, I guess we'd have to see when we get there, but.
Yeah, I think we definitely would see an increase in our meals. Probably not as much as some other districts though.
Okay.
But yeah, I think we definitely would see an increase in that.
Is that just the school provided lunch, or is that like the extra stuff too, like the sandwiches?
Just school
and-
provided, yeah.
We still have the chicken patty.
Alex eats like 5
It's a
of them
fan
every
favorite
day.
in our house. Yep. Crispy chicken
Premium.
sandwich
My
on
food service
Thursdays,
bill.
yeah.
He likes it.
He loves them.
Because a lot of kids complain about the food, so it's not really like.
Yeah.
I will say our food, and I taste it at every building every year. It's good. I think it's great. So if you guys would like to come and taste test our food, feel free to.
This might be beyond the scope of board work, but when we consider food vendors, do we consider the ingredients, like what's in the food that the students are eating? Like, does this one have more ultra processed whatever? Is this one
There's
made
very
with
strict
avocado oil
guidelines
versus-
that
Okay.
the food has to follow, and every food service management company has to follow that.
Okay.
Nicole, I remember you were counting, was it milk jugs at one point, or like you were counting meals? I saw you at a school once and you were just like taking
Yep.
inventory.
Yeah, so I do audits every year at each of the schools. I'm required to do that, just to make sure that everyone's following the processes correctly.
Nobody takes 2 milk jugs, right?
Nope.
Just one.
Unless you pay for it.
Not even the chocolate milk?
Mr. Countryman, are you gonna be a chef for Halloween?
You have all the gear still.
You're looking good.
That's great.
Yeah, we'll have to see who's next on the guest server list.
Brian did it too. So.
Huh?
That's all the credit. Brian did it.
Oh, yeah, I didn't have
I did it
pictures
last
from
week.
him.
It was a lot of fun.
That's good.
Yep,
Yeah.
serving
Kids
up
love it.
pancakes and sausage.
Nice.
One thing I really appreciated here, simple, there are so many acronyms that I do not yet know. So I appreciate putting what the acronym meant. And then that was just helpful for me, so I didn't have to go to Google to look those up. Thank you for doing that.
All right. Anything else on food services? I feel like I haven't heard from food service. Like, so this has just been really insightful, like knowing about what's going on with.
Yeah,
It's
that
about
was
aging
great.
equipment again, probably going back to facilities,
Yes.
the kitchens themselves, perhaps modernizing them, but at the very least, equipment-wise, right, something that I'm sure will kind of come filter through as we were talking just the facility side.
Oscar.
It seems like you're starting to do lots of things that things sound really good. I'm very interested to hear what you find once you start tracking things like attendance trends, staff-student ratios, behavioral incidents, parent feedback, and program utilization. Oh my God. I can't find anybody. The crowd is too big.
Between the two largest.
So no, just I thought happy that you're thinking ahead and looking at stuff like that. And again, next year, really curious. 2 years from now, really curious to hear what you find when you put that together.
Have few goals. I felt bad putting it in there because I just started in August, so I don't want to make comments about a program that I've, recently been a part of. But those are things that we would like to start looking at.
Follow up with you next year.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah.
Anything else?
Very informative. Lots of good information.
Yeah.
It was great.
And I'm glad to hear that the combination of those two roles sounds like it's been very beneficial. And I think it was talked to in both the transportation and on the Oscar side, which is good to see.
Right, very good to hear.
There's an invite in there too, if anyone wants to see.
Always good for an invite.
I know. We got to.
I need it.
Lacey and I spent 4 hours to get for Lacey on transportation. So,
Up really early.
I am curious. I hear stories because my younger brother worked for Oscar worked in Oscar, and so he just loved it. Said it was great. Really.
We did a staff survey recently, and we got a lot of positive feedback. You know, students had mentioned that they didn't think they wanted to teach until they started Oscar, and now that's a future. So that's stuff we can measure also. So most of our staff, they came with some good suggestions too, but most of them were very happy. It was it's their favorite job, and you know they learn a lot from their peers. So we had a lot of positive feedback. So it was good.
And this is something brought up. I just mentioned it to Nicole when I was getting some information on the early childhood piece. But there's some overlap, and it's interesting where like Oscar Junior and Little Spartans have crossover, and how like the duality of those two programs is a strong appeal. So I think that's an opportunity that we're already leveraging. But I just want to draw attention to the fact that like I think is a competency that we have is like really, really helps push us above and beyond other competitive offerings for early childhood. So the fact that we've got that to sort of sprinkle in, seeing how those two shake hands. I had an opportunity to take a tour for early childhood last year. It was brief because we were time strapped because I went and met with Mr. Rucker too. But I saw at least a quick look, and seeing where they shake hands is interesting. So because there is a lot of overlap, but that makes me wonder if we did have early childhood in a different space, what that looks like for Oscar Junior or for Oscar, and how those two programs would be affected by that. So I don't know. It's another thing to just think about. So.
That was something to note. We worked really hard to not decrease the Oscar Junior space at South Prairie this year, and that affected the global building to keep the 3 Oscar Junior spaces open, which we wanted to do even before Lacey took the position. So just something to note that stretched South Prairie even further. And our parking situation, if you've ever been there, don't come at 8:30 or 3:20. But we did able to stretch that, and people went to smaller spaces or on carts to make that happen. So we didn't have to decrease to 2 classrooms. Just so everyone knows that there was a lot of work that went into South Prairie to make that happen.
Nice.
Thank you.
Yeah, and again, not to say dirty words like redistricting again, but it does make you wonder, because I know for a while redistricting that school took a big piece of that, and there was a lot of movement there. So I'm just curious, like as we talk about the future of that program and those programs, what the impact will be for student placement. So that's just.
South Prairie has definitely changed. I mean, I walked in there 5 years ago, and there was plenty of open building. I mean, we could joke around how many book rooms we had or spaces. There was plenty of space there. The redistricting definitely affected South Prairie, and the continuing turning over of older neighborhoods that South Prairie. Like I live in Fox Point. My street does not look like anything when I moved in there. Yeah, she does too. So our kids' class has gone even from where they started, where her youngest and my oldest are in the same grade, and it's boomed. So I feel like it's just something that was harder that we didn't predict in the redistricting was the turnover of some of those neighborhoods. So
the gaining.
I get why people talked about that building having no space, but if you toured it again like you did last year, it's a little bit different story, and this year is even more tight. We have 3 speech and languages in the same office, things like that. So.
Well, yeah, now it's packed, and so then if we talk about an early childhood expansion, like there's interest in it.
I could see the difference just from when my son was there to now.
Yeah,
so it's wild.
Yeah, and that'll be an interesting suite of problems. So, anything else on Oscar? No? Okay. Student services. This one, I thought I learned so much I had no idea about.
This was great.
And I'm going to draw a reference to Lacey's wall of outplacement.
I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah, if you haven't had a chance to see, Lacey has a whiteboard in transportation office that
I have 2
has.
of them. I have one here too.
Oh, okay. With just all the outplacements and the coordination efforts, and again, like a testament to where those two departments like shake hands to have to overlap, and so like how what one does affects the other. So I'm glad that we're able to talk about this in the presence of all of you, because these they're so commingled. And in the past, when we do the individual reports, it's tough because of attendance, but now you guys are all here to sort of hive mind this. But anyway, any comments on student services?
It was just really great to hear about the progression of Life School, and I wanted to see Life School have a home, you know, and so it really touched my heart. I really appreciated it a lot that you took the time to write out everything. Whoever did it, if you're here,
Nice back there, yep.
thank you so much.
Labor of love.
Thank you so much. It was written beautifully, like the timeline, and I'm just so happy that Life School has a home here and a kitchen and everything to learn for those, that group of students, you know, that, thank you so much.
We're continuing to grow and to learn. You know, I call it action research. You have to be in a space to really understand what the needs are.
Right.
And so working side by side with the teaching staff and myself, and we're working through those concerns that are coming up. As they come up, we find solutions. And in my 20 years in special education administration, I've been a part of restructuring programs or initiating programs. And so this is very near and dear to my heart. And make sure that we continue to look at our student needs and our district resources, and then combining those together to really continue to plan out our future vision of how we can support our students, but also grow this program in a way that's helping our community, but also helping our students transition into adulthood and to the work experience.
It's awesome. Thank you so much.
I did have a trend question for you based on what I was looking at, and I could be a little bit wrong, but it seemed like from 23 to 26, the total sped counts are up about 11%, and our outplacements are up about 33%. Is that just typical in the world right now, or?
Absolutely. It is, I think it's describing what all schools are seeing with different populations coming in, different needs coming into the buildings. Our educators feel it within the classrooms, and then we also see it as administration and supporting those needs. And so the growth is very typical to lots of directors that I talk to around the state. It's definitely something that we have to keep an ongoing conversation on, because just talking to one of the elementary schools with the program that we just expanded within my time here, and you know, we're seeing an uptick of placements within that program. Now there may be a cohort that then goes to the next level in the next year, but right now we have concerns with making sure we're meeting the needs of those students, and also addressing those concerns from staff members to make sure that they're able to even provide the services within the constraints and the growing needs and numbers that we have. One of my things that I said to concerns or future issues is it's echoing a lot of what you're hearing about that recruitment, about that retention. Special education is really hard to secure related service personnel, social workers, psychologists, speech pathologists, teachers, and so it's something that we need to continue to grow, either grow our own or come up with recruitment and retention things to support our special education teachers and related service staff.
Really put you on the spot. Do you have any thoughts about how to do that in the long run, or you can think about it?
Well beyond just going to job fairs. It is during COVID, we had some extra money. So in my previous district, we used incentives to bring in those hard to fill positions. You really have to look at them differently than other positions when you're looking at the laws of making sure that we service the students within those legal documents. So we're bound by those laws. But as far as recruitment, I would say we just have to be really flexible in how we recruit them, how we retain them. I have some thoughts, yes. The answer is yes, but it's probably gonna be a lot of, communication with.
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, if I'm in the how, then certainly butt me back out. But as far as what please make sure that you get what you need from the board. So.
Do you feel posting for these positions, if open as early as December, is helpful?
Yes, I see some nodding of heads from the principals. We still have open positions. We have one at the high school. We have contract social workers. We have contract speech pathologists. We have contract psychologists. So, those needs continue. Those vacancies are still there. So when we can post, even sometimes in November, we could get those early grads, those mid-year grads from universities. But the earlier we can post, I think absolutely makes a positive impact on filling those positions.
Just quick, in your opinion, what makes a school district competitive when attracting those positions? What do you see? I mean, because you mentioned there's a theme coming up, like how do we attract and retain top talent, which again goes back to our board goal. Like, what makes a district competitive compared to other districts? I'm thinking of a word, but I don't, money, right? Like, is that it? Is it money, or is that a big one, right?
I think there's many things that attract someone to come into our district. I think it's also the community. It's also about those relationships, the reputation of the school. What makes this community so special, and then using that communications department to really make sure that that's out there, so that we're attracting people that want to come in and live here in the district. One of the things that is even broader than that, they're not, for instance, school psychologists, they're not graduating them at the rate in which would be able to fill our nation's hole. NASP says one school psychologist per every 500 students. Well, EDF funding says 1 per 1,000. But if we were even to do 1 per 1,000, my graduating cohort as a school psychologist was 8. So when you have limited programs in the nation, graduating 8 to 10 per year will never keep up. So
we have to be competitive then, right? That's because it's what it comes down to. We're not going to be able to fill all the needs, so we have to be aggressive.
So working with those higher ed, I worked with Grand Canyon University to get an online program for school psychology. It goes beyond just what can we do right here, but how can we look even nationwide and up in those upper level universities of how do we get them to graduate more teachers, graduate more school psychologists. We need to be flexible. Online programming, making it accessible, incentives from a district level on growing your own, and how to help people that are maybe in a teaching role that want to become a school psychologist or a social worker. I think we need to really look at a lot of different avenues to come up with how we recruit and how we maintain.
Kind of goes to that, hopefully that HR plan we were talking about, strategic plan. There's something there. Just a quick question for you too about, and because we're doing a dialogue, no pressure, but the SPED count, I guess I'm just looking at the 33% increase, right? And we talk about just the sheer numbers increasing. You're saying it's across the nation. What's changed? Is it the criteria by which no, right? Okay, I'm guessing, right? Is it, so if it's not the criteria, if it's not, I guess I won't theorize because I'll be way off, but do you know what's changed that has maybe led to this across the nation? Do you have any ideas or any guesses?
When you look at the past 5 years, and you look at especially the younger ones coming up through COVID, they did not have language examples. They were in homes, learning online. I think the opportunities, the children were born into not being exposed to, the grocery stores or the environment. And so I think that we're seeing those impacts of nationwide or a worldwide pandemic, is partially what we're seeing. And then the needs, socially, emotional, the trauma that we're seeing come in from students, all of those things, we see an uptick. And where that's coming from, I think we could all maybe make guesses. Is it too much screen time or gaming or violence that they're watching? There's lots of things I think that would impact those increases in behavior, but
There's the book, The Anxious Generation. I know everybody talks about this book, The Anxious Generation. I don't know. I know we have a district, or we have a high school cell phone policy. It's recent, right? So I don't know. I mean, as we try to stumble through the whys and what we can do for it, does Student Services, do we have any line of sight on how the implementation of the cell phone plan? Like, you brought up the cell phones again. We're just looking. We're wandering in the dark here. Is there any connection, or do we see that data at least at the student level? Is there any way to track that?
I can send you some articles about screen time and speech development at the early childhood into K1. The amount of screen time affecting speech and language and developmental disorders. Happy to pass that on. There's a lot of current research going on of how that kids being placed in front of TVs and phones is limiting their interactions, their social skills, and their speech development, which I think then we're just seeing push up further in the grades. I also think people aren't, that's getting just pushed up into higher grades. So there's a lot of current research being done on, handing your kid your phone because it's easier. I'm guilty of it. Here's your phone, let's be quiet so I can finish dinner, things like that. There's a lot of different research on how parenting styles have changed and impacted school outcomes that are kind of really cool and current studies.
So maybe the solution is in early childhood? Is that what I'm hearing?
I'm going to say everything.
You're telling me a solution.
That's like, he's going to say everything is in buildings and grounds. He's going to say middle school. She's going to say transportation. So I think there's a lot of different things, but I think there's some really cool research being done about technology affecting how brains evolve children.
Right.
And every time I read an
The
article, I
funnel of the
promise
brain
myself not to.
Into that young. So you're right, it is early childhood. Where it
I will
starts.
say the high school, the social emotional distraction of the cell phone and the issues that I've dealt with is just anecdotally. The issues that I dealt with have dramatically decreased this year by implementing the cell phone policy and it not being in their hands as much in the classroom. I've noticed a decrease in just some of the teenage drama things that I've had to deal with. So
I think also to the special ed testimony of our district, there's a lot of kids who've moved in with significant needs because our district is well known for taking care of their special education students. So I think outplacement students, some of them have just moved here because we're good at our jobs.
Did I read this right too, that we're getting a 77% reimbursement on outplacements? Is that ISB reimbursement for private programming?
That is, if the comptroller actually pays us, we, last year was a higher percentage supposedly, so.
It's typically around 50%, I would say.
Okay.
But the state says that they'll reimburse us for private therapeutic day schools up to that 77% rate.
Is it different in-house, or is it,
We
why is
we don't get any reimbursement for in-house programming.
so it's better from a reimbursement standpoint to outplace than it is to try to do it in-house?
They're expensive, right? So, it is great that we have that ability because for special education, you have to provide a continuum of education, meaning something as small as maybe speech or resource all the way up to a residential placement and everything else in between. So when you look at a continuum of services that we have to provide, with our size, we have a few layers that we can support students. We have LEAF and we have ABLE, but then when the needs become greater than what we can provide, then having that ability then to get reimbursed at that high rate for private therapeutic is absolutely a positive for the district.
I mean, 77% is a huge percentage. So, like, that's a non-negligible amount of reimbursement. Like,
If you get
But that's an up to, right? That's not a guarantee.
It's usually about 50.
Yeah, I don't think we've ever been funded at the full amount since I've been here,
No,
16 years.
okay. That's nothing new. That's just
It would be like a student that maybe has needs that cost the district. I mean, we see bills $25,000 a month. If they're in LEAF, it does not cost, 33% of 25,000. It would be cheaper to do it in house, and you're not sending a student to Naperville for the day.
It
For
depends
instance,
on
like
the
it's a
students.
case by case basis. I think. I don't think it's
And an
we
outplacement
can't just
isn't-
generalize.
Yeah, to your point, an outplacement isn't just a student with emotional dysregulation or mental health disabilities. It could be our low incidence. We have deaf and hard of hearing, blind, we have autism, multiple disabilities, significant cognitive or medically fragile. Like there is a list of disabilities and unique needs of students that then we are placing out. I would say the majority probably would be for more of that behavioral or emotional dysregulation, but we have quite a few of that 48 that have those low incidences as well.
Well, I had one other comment on this, and Lacey had kind of piqued my interest in it when she was talking about students sitting in the car for like an hour getting outplaced to a place in like Naperville, or it's not ideal, but sometimes it's the best way to serve them is they have to go to these places with specialized services. But Menta Academy, I know, is close by, and we're doing a lot of outplacement to that place. I had an opportunity I didn't go through in great detail with them, but just kind of check out the facility and how they're building it out, and it looks like they've seen a huge uptick too. What, I guess in terms of accessibility to Menta Academy and seats, because there's space, are our opportunities to outplace students close to home limited by the competitive nature of other schools also looking to outplace to those? And is
Yes, go ahead.
yeah, that's essentially the question.
Private facilities really have the upper hand with accepting or not accepting students. Some of the places that we are wanting to send, they're either full within those grade bands, or they're not taking someone with specific disability, whether it's blindness or aggression. So they have the right to tell us no. So then we have to, if you notice the number of facilities that we use, I think it's 17, and there's really 13 facilities, but then some of them like Menta have Menta Online, and then Menta Academy, DeKalb, Genoa, like Menta's all over the nation, but each facility has its own kind of niche of what they provide and what students that they're able to take, whether it's an elementary or an emotional internalizer, or so that's the reason why there's so many. And then when we can't find a placement for a student that has high needs, then we have to look out farther. By law, we keep them to that hour. We don't want to then, we can't have that over that hour time limit. And that's a lot, on the road.
Yeah, an hour's a ton of time.
That's not our first choice ever.
Right.
We're truly at the mercy of the private placements that have openings for specific disabilities, specific age range, and then their disability need. So we have a deaf and hard of hearing program, but it's, how far is it? 40?
It's an Algonquin.
Algonquin.
Yeah,
So
45 minutes-ish.
and it's a little one. It's a little. So I guess.
I saw they got the kids. Some of these kids that Lacey was showing us, that like it doesn't look comfortable what they're situated in. Like I know we're doing the best we can here, but it's like, man, oh man, that's. I know it was like there was a contraption. I mean, it was right, but I can't imagine sitting for an hour in one of those.
They fit better than they look. We have multiple sizes, so we measure, I'll just use Lene for an example. If she has a kid who requires a harness for safety, we'll go in with different sizes. Lene will help measure them. So they're not as tight or restrictive as they look, but it is a tool that keeps them safe for these rides. And that we use those in district as well. We have some students that can't ride 30 minutes safely. So that is a tool that we use for all of the routes. It's not specifically to just outplacements.
Well, this is really, really insightful. Thank you for this. Any other comments on
Just
student
could we,
services?
just to keep things moving, could we have a future agenda item from the director of life school on maybe what she would like in this new facility? Just from her directly?
Did you guys see the pictures too? There were pictures?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like facility wise, space wise, I mean, frankly, it's just, I think there was a communication gap between the board and admin on what the life school were going to be and what spaces they'd use. So I think having more discussion about that would be helpful, but I mean, we've been going a while, so maybe at a later date would be better.
More interest in life school?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
I don't see why not.
At a regular board meeting or a subcommittee?
I don't know what committee would. I think
Teaching and learning with it,
Yeah,
or
well,
or a regular.
There's
board.
so much we put on their plate, though. I don't think we have time. I would suggest.
So you want like a separate life school update,
Yes, please.
standalone?
Yes.
Life school update, okay, so maybe just its
with
own
recommendations on
report.
what the director would like potentially.
And just so you know, I had lots of conversations with the previous coordinator teacher when we were going to be moving in here beginning in January of designing and what she wanted to see. We separated the kitchen, we advocated for that. So there was a very close communication between myself and the previous coordinator. And then when we hired Ms. Nessenbrink, we started those communications with visits, and she has brought, just as early as 2 weeks ago, she brought some things to my attention that I was not aware of, and we meet pretty regularly. So we're working on, for instance, a sensory room. That was something that she said is needed with at least one of the students for sure. And so within, that was the 15th of October, within that next week, we were able to then locate a sensory room where we're gonna go ahead and buy those tools and options. So it is an ongoing conversation that I'm also having with the staff and making sure that the needs that are arising are being addressed and that we're future thinking as well. So.
I saw it too, it said it like 7 to 10 hours per week is spent preparing for vocational experiences and receiving district instruction, and then 70% of the time they're embedded in, they're out.
Which is the goal.
Yep.
Right.
We want them to be in the community and having jobs so that they're going to be productive members of our society. So that is truly the goal
Right.
of life school. So minimal time here, but we want to make the time here, those 7 to 10 hours a week, useful and make sure that we're meeting their needs, for sure.
Great, thanks.
Thank you so much.
Anything else, student services? All right, and then last report here, transportation. We're doing a year's work, a year's amount of reporting in one meeting here, so highly.
15 minutes.
It's a long, I know, I was thinking about that. Now when I
15
said
minutes
15
per.
minutes, I knew you were gonna remember.
I was thinking 15 each. Yeah.
That's what it was, yeah, it was 15 minutes each, 150.
It's good work, though. I mean, it's really, really great.
Right.
All right, so transportation, just taking a quick peek at this. One of the high-level pieces was, what are we gonna do about routes that fall within 1.5 miles? And what do you think?
I mean,
I read this as like,
I think that the hazard study that we're doing is a great tool. Not the sole tool, but a great tool because it takes the opinion and the emotion and they're measurable items, right? And that's important. I did hear you when you and Alan came in and we were talking about an elevated version of that, right? So we have this hazard study, Illinois Department of Transportation is like, hey, this isn't a hazard. They're not local to us, right? So there's an element to they're not local to us. What does that look like? So, Nicole and I have talked, we touched base with PD. That was one of the things that we discussed, after the accident. There's obviously some things that can't be shared necessarily all the time, but their involvement with how they provide crossing guards or complaints that they receive in areas, accident-prone places, different situations that maybe they would know about that we don't. So, you know, their involvement, I think, would be important. They have a criteria for crossing guards, too. They will sit on an area, they will make observations, they will check out traffic flow and patterns, similar to kind of what we do, but also different. And I think Mark and I did this 2 years ago, but having maybe an internal group of people or established people where if we're looking at an elementary route, having an elementary principal or people in that avenue look at the walking path and say, hey, is this something that our K-5 population can do safely? Maybe it's education that we have to provide. Maybe it's where we walk the path as adults and kind of look at all of the different things that could come up on that path. But just having the insight of someone that's not, you know, where I'm looking at data points and here's someone coming in and they're talking about the population of kids that we serve. So that opinion is, you know, there as well. So I think still using the hazard study piece, right? Because that's always going to be how much traffic is in an hour during your route time, or what are the stop signs? Are there any? You know, those things are important because I think that those are good tools, but then maybe having this extra layer so that if parents are like, hey, you guys are very, you know, blinders, then we could have an elementary principal or someone in that avenue say, hey, here's what we observed, here's what we looked at, and we support this decision that is maybe, you know, to take a route away or sometimes to add one. We've talked about other areas where, you know, maybe we should relook at it from a different perspective. So just having kind of a group established within district to see what the measurement is and then also what is possible of our student population. So those were just some.
So is it staff that's been standing at Park and Borden after school?
Our staff?
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
I don't, not that
There's
I know.
2 women that have been standing at Park and Borden.
I don't know anything about that.
Oh.
That's not, our district staff is not.
Okay.
We have not done that. I did have a bus incident the other day where I had to pull over there to get on a bus and help with the discipline issue, but no.
Okay.
Outside of that, no, I don't know if parents are
I
doing
just
that.
didn't
It
know
was
if that
not-
was parents or staff because
Yeah, no.
I've noticed.
I mean, unless Mr. Rucker has an opinion on that, it's not transportation staff.
Okay.
So I just, maybe I missed it, and so correct me if I'm wrong. So as I see it, the problem is that we have routes that we're running that are within 1.5 miles of walking distance. And we don't need to offer those routes, but we do because we have always done that.
Correct.
And so if we were to
For
remove,
various reasons too.
right.
Some of it's procedural.
That's a given. Yep, sure. Exactly. If we were to say, we're within 1.5 miles, we're not going to offer routes to any of these within 1.5 miles walking distance. That creates, obviously, disruption to what people expect, and it calls for justification.
Mm-hmm.
So we're at a sort of crossroads. Do we continue to offer these routes inequitably, argument's sake, right? Or do we create some sort of process that justifies when we offer a route beneath 1.5 miles? Or do we just say, just indiscriminately, no routes within 1.5 miles unless they're a hazardous route? And you were saying, Lacey, correct me if I'm wrong here, that we should involve the building principals and put together sort of like a task force, and on a case-by-case basis.
I think if like you brought up the petition, I mean, we've talked about the petition a lot. You know, we've also, there was 2 routes in the original hazard presentation where we were taking potential routes away from 2 different locations. One of which didn't really get a lot of hype and didn't seem to create as much stress as this other one. So just an extra layer of support maybe if there is a need. I mean, I'm very black and white in this situation. I live in the area, so I mean, I've done a few of the hazard studies over there. One with Mark, Nicole and I have sat over there. We've talked to PD numerous times. I think the hazard study works in this area, but I do hear that there is parent concern. So if you have further parent concern and IDOT saying, hey, this is not a hazard, I think a in-district task force of people who aren't looking at it solely from a transportation perspective, because I can have blinders in that avenue, that might help at least have the parents feel like they're validated in that conversation. At the end of the day, if this task force is like, hey, we agree with the IDOT findings, then, you know.
Could this fall on the parent-teacher advisory committee? Do you think, because that's composed of parents, teachers, the idea is if you were interested in serving in it or publicly, like, could that be something that falls on their agenda? And then they could potentially have a follow-up meeting where they solicit stakeholders and then come up with a sort of.
Yeah, I don't know that we'd want, and I don't mean this disrespectfully to the parents, I don't know that we'd want the parents necessarily involved. I think sometimes we emotionally have blinders on when it comes to like masking safety as an inconvenience, right? Like if you take a route away from this group of people, it is inconvenient, not necessarily strictly from a safety perspective, though it feels like that, but also could be from, you know, I have to pay for Oscar and I have not had to before, or I have a job where I might have to change the structure of my day to get my kids to and from school, or, you know, they brought up that the South Prairie parking lot is a concern. I think ultimately at the end of the day, we're not telling people they have to make their children walk. It's just an option in a series of options that the other district members have had to face also. And there are, when we talk about taking a route away, it's similar to this. You know, when they established it, it was during upstaging traffic, and things have changed since then. But, you know, it offers avenues for us to utilize the routes in different ways. So right now we only offer special education buses to our ABLE program or our LEAF program. We do have special ed students at other buildings that would require that. We just have found creative ways to serve them, but having this flexibility would offer avenues for them and to have more support for that. So supporting our growth in preschool, right? We only have 2 buses that support that. Having a 3rd bus would be great. So there are other ways that we could utilize this route if this was not what we did next year. So.
Well, I think,
Well, go ahead, Heather.
I think it would be worth having the parents in on the conversation, because if enough kids from one neighborhood are walking to the same school, they could easily have a stay-at-home mom or somebody walk the group of children together instead of each individual child walking themselves.
It's 1.5 miles. It's a long way to walk in the winter. For
Yeah,
5, I wouldn't want my little
understand. I'm just
5-year-old
thinking about
walking 1.5 miles. Did you say K through 12 is involved in this?
Mm-hmm.
The hazard studies are for all levels, so it's just the measurable items change with the age of the student. So
Yeah, I think it's troublesome to take away one you already had.
My question was, it may be helpful to share, does IDOT provide written rationale for their rejection?
Yep, I think there's a packet that you guys had when we started this original conversation.
With their written rationale?
Yeah, so they have different, each category or point system has like paragraphs related to what that looks like. They have a lot of examples of traffic flow and different crossing measures and what
Yeah, no, I read that document.
Yeah.
But I meant, did they provide a written rationale for their rejection of, because we added the 2 judgment points.
Oh, yes,
they
we
said,
did.
no, those are no good.
They just follow the area, they go through the measurements. Sometimes they'll send a staff member out to look for themselves,
Right,
but no written. They'll
They
just
say no, those 2 judgment points are no good.
The judgment points were good. They just, when we added those 2 judgment points, they still didn't exceed. They didn't.
Oh, they disagreed with your original assessment.
So the judgment points, I don't remember what they were exactly, but they have to total 12 or 21 to count as a hazard. And they did, even with the judgment points per the measurements of the streets and the traffic flow, they didn't get to that level.
Oh, I guess I was confused. I guess I was confused several months ago then, because I thought that I was under the impression that it had, based on your maths, it was something like it had 18 points without the judgment points, and then it was
once
2
we
judgment
decided
points.
to send it to the state
Right.
and not just do it internally, we had to go out and physically. A lot of those we were estimating high on behalf of the parents. Those estimates, had they have been high and submitted to IDOT would have changed them. They did that on another hazard study that we sent.
So it was
By-
submitted differently than it was showed to us.
No, it was submitted the same way it was shown to you. The original one that we did, where we were kind of guesstimating when we sent it to the state, the one that Alex signed,
Oh.
the one
Guessed
that
it
was
too low.
presented in the.
So then the one that we got shown here later was slightly different than the one that we had shown.
The original one that we did just as a rough estimate was different, and then when, like I said, when we went to send it to the state, we had to be very, very accurate to that. So we went out with tape measures, we measured the sidewalks, we measured the distance, we did the traffic flow, per the website that they gave us. We did submit a hazard study for, Brickville over by Briar, by North, and they did not agree with my findings on that one. I had listed that as a hazard. They disagreed. They did go through and I said that there was a bridge that the students had to cross. They said the bridge wasn't as significant as it needed to be. So they took my points from 4 to 3. So they do make adjustments if we measure wrong or if something is not up to their standard. On the one specifically for Park and Borden, they did not make any changes to the measurements that we sent in.
So they were never paying for the Park and Borden stop. We've just been paying for it.
None of the hazards have ever been.
We've never submitted the hazard forms.
And then we
ever.
just decided now, recently, in the last year, to take that away.
So we saw a decrease in student riders in that area. So
Okay.
that was one of the reasons. Yeah, so we were gonna utilize that, the second half of that route in a different way. We saw a decrease in student ridership, so we were sending a bus to that area that had less, on some days, maybe 20 kids total. And there were some other resources that we could have used that for. So that was something that prompted that. Obviously, the structures in the area had changed, the traffic patterns had changed a little bit. And then when we decided to do the hazard studies for the entire district, that was one area that we decided that we did as well. So if we're going to send in hazard studies for all the hazards that we need to be reimbursed, that was one of them that we would have to do, because it is listed as a hazard. And then once we did that research, we realized that it did not meet the standards of a serious safety hazard through IDA.
This sounds like a policy committee referral to me.
No.
Does it?
Yeah, I'm
No.
feeling like
I don't think it
I think I
is.
agree with Heather about involving parents and seeing if parents would be willing to carpool or make some kind of.
We have a lot of education pieces too that we've talked about. We've just never made it that far. You know, Rich and I had talked about, doing a video to show the appropriate walking path. Christian had mentioned involving a business to create a walking path. So they're, talking to Sycamore PD and having more police presence in the area, having them come and look at whether a crossing guard would be appropriate there. So there are things that we would implement if that route was removed. It just, we haven't made it that far yet.
so. And I don't think we can solve. I don't think we're going to solve this here tonight, right now.
No,
So-
but I just wanted to say, I do, just one more thing real quick. That would be helpful, but we're still gonna have a problem, I feel, that kind of distance walking in the bad weather.
This is one of the shorter areas of walking in comparison to other areas
Is
of the
it?
district. Yes.
I
This
just have a
is-
question for the parents. Was this done, it's a two-part question. Was this done before construction started on the fire department or after? And is the fire department traffic going to be, is that deemable as a hazardous thing if
No.
if there's a fire and the fire engines have
No,
to?
that's not a measurable item, but
Okay.
we did do the traffic flow patterns as construction was happening.
Okay, all right.
We don't count cars. We use the average daily traffic count through a resource that the state gives us. So to be totally honest, that traffic flow pattern is estimating higher than what it would be if we sat there and physically counted cars. So we did use the higher number as far as traffic patterns go in support of, the district and for the parents.
Okay.
So we acknowledge there's a problem here in terms of the inconsistent implementation of routes beneath 1.5 miles.
But the question is, does the board want to follow its policy, which is 1.5 miles? We give free transportation. Less than 1.5 non-hazardous, we don't. Or do we want to override it?
Which
I
is
think
why
the
I was saying
policy
this could
would-
be a policy issue.
But I would need direction from the board on if the board wants to override the policy? Because right now we're not following.
I think we should take it to the or the parent committee first and
Because I guess I don't know what a
bring it
policy.
up as an agenda item there to see if any parents are willing, like how they feel about it, and
We could
before
also,
we make a policy decision on it.
we could also ask for an administrative recommendation. Like we could direct administration to produce a recommendation on how to handle the issue and where it should live as an option too, if we don't know where to refer it.
Yeah, I guess I would prefer, because of the policy, I mean, I don't know what I would do. The policy's pretty clear.
It'd just be it'd live as an agenda item for discussion and review specific to action in policy.
But does the board, but it's ultimately the board that needs to decide, do we want to follow policy, do we want to write, I wouldn't have any direction on what we're even trying to accomplish besides look at this, but would you want the committee's opinion on if we should follow the policy or rewrite the policy?
No, I most certainly would like the administration's opinion on what specifically we as a board should do so that way we can be consistent and have our policy reflect what our practices
Yes, I would
are.
suggest we start with the admin's recommendation, then if we don't like it or it's different than policy, kick it to the policy committee. Not start at policy committee and just to have
Well,
admin
even if we
give a
change the
recommendation.
policy, we're still gonna have the issue of the funds being provided.
Correct.
So it's not gonna.
So I guess
matter.
I would like admin's recommendation and then decide.
I think our recommendation, which I think we've done it a
I
couple
feel like they've
times
already
now,
given
is
it
to
though,
follow
is
policy.
just follow it.
That's
That's
our
what I'm saying. So
Yeah,
admin's
right,
saying follow
no, I-
policy, do we want to adhere to admin's recommendation
Is that-
or not? That's not a policy committee issue, right? It's the board needs to decide, do we want to follow our policy or not?
I think that's been our recommendation the last.
I mean, because I'd assume it would be frustrating for admin to keep coming to us, say, well, we recommend this, the board says no, okay, try this, they tried this, it didn't work. Now we need to give some direction soon, or
I
at
don't
least by
want to
next
take
year.
the route away. So I
Right.
like that's the
Right.
problem.
Okay, so I guess I don't.
I know.
No,
So
either.
I don't want to do that.
Well, my
Now,
recommendation
it's not
would
up to
be
me.
to take it away, so that's to
Because a
take the policy
kid's
might
been
not
Yeah.
be the
there
most
before,
helpful.
that's the problem, this is the whole issue, there was an accident there before.
So I hear the recommendation. I don't like the recommendation. So
I think
It's
one
not
of the
just
things
this
too
route.
that
But
we
we're
need
not
to
taking
take
the
into
route away from
consideration, like for Allen, your
there.
neighbor, I'm gonna use your neighborhood as an example. Allen's neighborhood was one of the other, locations that we did a hazard study for. That one didn't meet the qualifications either, and so that one is kind of slipping under, I guess, the radar as far as a route that has existed that we will then take away because it no longer qualifies. That one was more specific to construction and sidewalks not being established and now being established. So again, infrastructure has changed, whatever the reasoning is. So I think that the biggest issue is if we present two and one we're like, hey, we're gonna take yours away, it no longer makes sense. And the other one we're like, hey, we're gonna keep it. There should be some, I don't know how to do that equitably
So
or not emotionally because I get where you're coming from.
no, right, and like ultimately, what we should do then is we should host a vote if we're split on this issue. This will be the first time we've been split on something in a while, which is fine. So we should have a future agenda item that hosts what the recommendation is, and then we'll take a vote on it. And I think
Yes, and then if the vote is to allow this route to continue, it would go to the policy committee to come up with some mechanism to override because we would be going against what's currently written, which is fine, the board has
the
the
mechanism
option
is
to do
the
that.
policy related to suspending policy. So that's
We could suspend it or we could just revise it too. There's a board, it would be something for the committee to investigate at that time.
so
But I think
future
we need to
agenda
get there
item
first.
with this recommendation, and we'll just host a vote. And
One more question before we do that. How is the speed limit on Borden for that type 3 calculation? The speed and volume is well, I'm looking at it. How's the speed limit calculated? If it's listed as 30, is it 30 or is there something that causes it to be written as?
Yeah, it's what is posted. Borden is a little bit more difficult because it is split where there's the school section and then past the school section. So in an effort to estimate on behalf of the parent, like I estimated for the higher point item. So if it's 25 gets less points because it's lower than 30.
Right.
I would have used the 30 speed limit to present it to IDOT. If they didn't agree with that, they could have made a number change.
Gotcha. Because in the original memo that we got, it was listed as 30 miles per hour. And in the one that we submitted to the state, it was listed as 20 miles per hour for 0 points. Am I reading that right?
Yeah, we did a walkthrough and
But what's it? It's
the
listed
original
as.
one too, we did as Park and Borden, so like
Mhm.
like a collective. When we submitted it to the state, they said we had to do an area of just Park Avenue and then just Borden Avenue, and then combine those two numbers together. So originally, when we did like the rough estimate, it was Park and Borden kind of combined. Like I said, when we submitted it to the state, I had to go in and do the Borden section and the Park section separately. And then they became a combination hazard instead of a single hazard.
Right. Yeah. No, I get that. I was talking about the specific Type 3 crossing a roadway. Just on the form we submitted to the state, it's listed as 20 miles per hour as the speed limit on Borden.
Yeah, that's when we went over there and looked, that's what it was posted as. I think originally we looked offline, something from Mark Bushnell, and then we, like I said, we physically went out there, measured, looked at posted signage, and got really specific per the state recommendation.
Well, 20 would be when it's a school.
School zone, it's 25 into 20.
But it would be when school's not in session increased. I think at 25, is it even 30?
We can
No,
only
it's
do the
25.
hazard studies based on, it's gotta be
During school
route-
hours?
It's gotta be during
Okay.
route time, like route hours, yeah, so in the morning it would be till 9 o'clock and it wouldn't start again, it'd be from 3 essentially to arguably a route time,
That's-
which would be
yeah.
4:30.
That's why I was asking how it was calculated. I didn't know if Borden became a school zone or if it just says 30 miles per hour on Borden, then then you list it as 30 miles per hour. So
Good.
Yeah.
I
So
think we're clear. Are we?
Yep, I got a
Good.
future agenda
Future
item.
agenda
We're
item,
gonna
take a
ask for a
vote.
recommendation. We're
Yes.
gonna take a vote. So
Yes.
Specific to that route or in general?
I think in general.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Is that,
Wait,
Yeah,
wait,
right.
hold on. I was thinking specific to what do we mean? Vote on what in general?
how we're gonna handle routes under 1.5 miles?
Like, which it's all, we either allow all of them or none of them?
Again, this is where like the recommendation will be clear. How do we manage our policy and routes under 1.5 miles? What does the admin think we should? What do the administrators think we should do? And then we'll vote yes or no in support of that. And hopefully we can come up with a really good solution. And maybe the recommendation is we need to have more stakeholders involved. Maybe the recommendation is we think you should modify policy. Maybe the recommendation is we think you should follow policy and do X, Y, or Z.
But Nicole said the recommendation would be just to follow it, right?
Right, but we don't have a recommendation on the agenda right now, so what we would want is a future agenda item, maybe it's that same recommendation, but essentially,
To officially.
so we can
Yeah.
put this to bed, because this is like the third time we've picked this up, so,
Okay, we'll talk about it later.
yeah, so it'll be forthcoming from administration. Anything else on this? We are through the reports. Useful stuff, very good, thank you. Yes, learning and teaching, any updates?
Not beyond what we've already talked about. There's a meeting on November 11th where we're going to take up a lot of the topics that we discussed. But we haven't met since the last meeting, so I don't have any updates.
Great. Business Service Committee, you have a recommendation?
Skip
I think you
FOIA.
have this,
Board goals, FOIA.
Did I miss?
Yeah.
Yeah,
we
we
missed.
skipped
Oh my gosh, I flipped over, I'm so sorry, thank you. We'll go to item 8.01, FOIA reports. Any comments on the FOIAs we received? All right,
A lot of them.
yeah, wow.
Short ones though.
Board goals progress update. I feel like we talked about board goals a lot, and a lot of things are tying to board goals. I really like the K5 report connected a lot of pieces to board goals, so it'll be interesting to see. There's some updates going online on the website with the deliverable updates, so good stuff there. Nick's out, so that's kind of his forte. Superintendent search process update. I guess I should say, anything else on board goals? You guys feel good? Oh, good, okay. Superintendent search process update. We have many applicants. I talked to HYA. They shared they were extremely surprised by the number of applicants, overwhelming number of applicants. So they're working diligently to try and narrow the pool of candidates. And we will have our work cut out for us in what will be, as I understand it, now she's saying 8 to maybe 10 hours, maybe 12. I'm hoping we can keep it to 8 hours on November 8th. So early morning, late night, we're gonna work hard. So roll the sleeves up.
Well, that's exactly what we'd hope to have, right? I mean,
That's what's right. It's a lot more. More is better than few.
Well, we get, my concern is
You
it's
get
October.
everything you asked for, which is the full list.
Yes,
So-
but will we get to review it before that meeting? Because it's October 28th. It would be unfortunate to have to read it like, November.
I'll
7th.
follow up with them.
Like if we
to
could
make
follow
sure
up
that
with,
we
we'll
get-
actually get it, because like
Next
reviewing it.
weekend.
Next weekend.
It's next week.
Yeah, it's already
Yeah,
next
reviewing
week.
it in
At
advance of
9,
that.
that's why I was getting worried, that's why I texted you, I'm like, do you happen to know when the second one is? Like, I'm not missing something.
Yeah. So I'll make
I
sure
wrote
that
it
they get
down
us
and then I
that
couldn't
long
find the
minutes.
paper.
Yes, please, thank you. Yep.
But anyway, it's at 9 a.m., correct? On
8.
8 a.m.
It's
yeah.
at 8.
Yeah, and we might need to make it earlier and later. Like I said, I'll keep you guys posted, but
I'm gonna miss a basketball game.
we will see.
Okay.
Anything else on super search process? Okay. IASB conference planning. Sent out that sheet to everybody to take a look at. I was hoping that we could put our heads together on interest. In my mind, I thought, we'll do that at a regular meeting and we can all just communicate. I didn't also in my mind visualize that would happen at 9:30 at night, so I guess we'll just devote a few minutes to it.
I
Famous
don't
words.
see anything on here that says do not adopt, so.
No, I'm sorry, I'm talking about the conference.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so like who here of us is going to the conference? So, okay.
Yeah, but I'm not gonna go. I don't think I'm gonna go every day.
Right. I understand. But okay, so everyone here is going to the conference.
Mm-hmm.
So then of those people going to the conference, if you got the planner schedule I sent, it was just a short 53-page planner schedule. I'm sure you guys all
Can I make a
planned through it.
suggestion real quick?
Yeah, please, go for it.
What if we all just send you what we're planning on going, Callie aggregates it, sends it back to us, and if we need to make tweaks at the next meeting, we do that? Instead of like,
We won't be able to do it at the next meeting, because the next meeting.
Or
will
like
be
she just sends us
after.
an email or whatever.
Yeah, that was my thought was how do we do that without it being an open meeting act?
Well, there's no
issue?
deliberation on it, it's just, I'm
But we're
going
gonna
here,
be-
you're going there. Like, that's not deliberating board business. I think we'd be okay, but if we wanna do it now, that's fine, I was just trying.
No,
just
I
an
get
idea.
what you're saying. Yeah, like it'd be nice if it's just the problem is like with the Google Doc, like how do we not us all communally giving feedback on something that we all then see is the issue. If we don't do that in view of the public, we create a situation where we might be in violation of FOMO. That was my concern with doing it that way, is I don't want to do anything even remotely deliberative without it being in the public. Give me a few minutes on this, just a few minutes. We'll just buzz through the highlighted ones. Introduction to collective bargaining, dollars and decisions for school finance. I guess of the highlighted ones, which was strategic planning that works, hiring for impact, setting your new superintendent up for success, communicating financials with clarity and confidence, from headlines to high impact board leadership, and hot topics in issuance of municipal bonds, superintendent employment contracts, Goldilocks and Three Bears of financial statements, what to know about board member communications, setting district goals, beyond compliance, exercising local control through policy, mastering the deal, the ultimate negotiation playbook, board and unions, evolving district relations and bargaining, executive search process, property tax based preservation strategies. Those are the ones I was hoping we could all have some level of attendance at. Do any of those, and I highlighted them on the list I sent, seem like ones that we should eliminate from that list?
I think the executive search, probably, because we're already so far in, like, I'm
Executive
not sure
search.
how much value
I
add
agree. I
would
think we
get.
should scrap the executive search. Okay. So scrap. Anyone else
No,
want to keep
ironically, I've
executive
gone
search?
through the list independently and highlighted a lot of the same ones. I did not highlight that one, but I agree that one.
I was trying to use the app that we always use and it's not letting me sign in.
Yeah, the app's
We can
trouble.
work on that together. I got in, so.
Okay, executive search gone. Anything else? Hot topics and issuance of municipal bonds. That was more of like a personal one, so I don't know if that's super relevant, but
Yeah, I didn't know how much that was. It didn't sounds interesting, but I don't know if it sounds super helpful.
okay. So scratch it. Anyone else want to keep hot topics on issuance of municipal bonds? No?
Yeah, just send me the list of what everyone else is going to and do that.
Issuance
I'm
bonds.
good.
Okay.
I mean,
Any
I'm
others
sure
from
I'm
that
gonna
list?
learn something at every one that I go, I always do, learn something at every one
Okay.
I go to.
Were there any on here that we didn't include? Or?
I signed up for a 9 a.m. one, like way back then, way back when, for board scenarios for new board members. I don't know if I can unsign up for it or because I see a lot of these are at 9 a.m. on Friday.
They made a lot of duplicates too. So, and this is where I was thinking, if there are no other ones that we want to exclude from this list, there will be many that you could individually fill in. But if we at least covered these, and then whoever went to that took notes, so that way we could then share those publicly, but then also with each other, we wouldn't miss anything. Is that
I'll have to do a Friday one because I'll be in delegation all day Saturday.
so?
The delegation
It's
is
Saturday.
usually shorter than the allotted time. Like last year didn't take that long at all.
Okay.
Just so you might have some room to.
Okay.
So any others on this list that are must-dos?
I like the list.
You like the list? And with the omissions, the executive search and hot topics for issuance on municipal bonds. I felt bad including it, but so I'm gonna take it out. But, okay.
You emailed that list,
I
correct?
did email that list, yep, with the highlights.
Mm-hmm.
So if nobody else has any issues with it, with those omissions, I'll send out a list, or I'll talk with Kelly on signing up for those and how we can maybe cross-coordinate, so that way where there is overlap, we can hit everything. And then where you independently want to see things fill in the gaps, and then what we can do is aggregate
Into the app,
notes.
because that's how I always did it before.
I would, and we had talked about doing this in the past and we never actually did, but if we could take notes and yeah, I know Alex, you did. I was guilty too. I didn't take nearly enough
I don't
detailed
mean to
notes.
be like, oh, but I did.
I recorded.
Yeah, I know.
the
I got your
sessions.
recording, Beth. That was really good. I wish there was a better way that we could take notes that was consistent, that was lawful, like, do like
There's a
AI.
special app for that now.
Yeah, I know. It's like, I wonder what options there are, but
Should I share my template for notes?
Standing correct. We all agree that these are the
Robot app.
topics that
It's always
we
worked before.
collectively want to attend as the board.
at least one of us.
Yeah, right. And then if anyone has any strong wants to go to a specific one, maybe we speak up. Otherwise, somebody just assigns it to a singular person at minimum, and if more than one person wants to go and doesn't have something else
Even
to say,
better, yeah. Like, the whole thing is we individually can't go to 9 of these.
Yeah.
But if we assigned out one of these to each of us and one person got 2, then we could all go and do another 5 or 6 independently, but then we've covered these 9 for sure. And that's the idea. And then the worst thing that happens is like we don't have 5 people showing up to one and we're all like in different spots in the room and you're like, oh, well, even though sometimes it is helpful to have multiple people in.
I went to the Dollar and Decisions one last year.
Was it any good?
The presenter was stellar. I thought she was really great. But it was high level financials and how to kind of look at the school report card and work through that.
So maybe you scrape that one too?
Well, it depends on who goes, right? So I think if somebody who has it may not be as important. It's
Let's scrap it.
interesting, but I'm not sure it's high level.
Yeah, if you've got that feedback, I'm gonna act on it.
She was great though. I mean, if there's an opening and you want to
No dollars in decisions. Any other feedback on this? Not, again, this isn't like super formal. Obviously, I'm not, you guys can spend your conference however you want. I just think this would be useful, so.
I
All
can
right.
share.
We'll synchronize clocks at 8 a.m. on Saturday. All right, so then we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the Spartan Senate update. It was a nice video prepared. Thought that was great, really a useful update. So everyone, I'm sure, got a chance to watch it and enjoy it. So good stuff. You guys look like you're queuing something up. We weren't planning on playing it, right? Okay, great.
Yeah, it was really good. Great to hear that the phone policy is benefiting everyone according to the students, not just according to. So they were really, I mean, the student president anyway was like, this was great. So. Yeah, that was good to hear.
All right, the back side of that sheet that we picked up there. All right, Alan, now learning and teaching, you had already given your
Now I have a very long update.
Now, yeah.
No, there's no update, like we talked about.
Okay. BSC?
I've got these recommendations.
Yeah, these are directives to administration, so they weren't going to be full action items. So if you want to read off your recommendations, and then I think we can, without a vote, direct administration.
Okay. So we had a business services meeting 2 weeks ago. It was a good, productive meeting. We sat one of our new members, Jason Kavanaugh. That was Jason Kavanaugh, Josh Hughesman, Conchetta Magnachi, myself, Nicole Stuckert, along with we had some feedback from some other people in the audience. So committee recommendations number 1 on the 5-year facilities maintenance projection. The committee recommends that the board direct administration to bring forward a draft multi-year facilities roadmap by January that 1 will outline major maintenance needs, anticipated capital projects, and show how our facilities align with current and future enrollment, and that 2 will allow the board to better understand the size and timing of future investments relative to their urgency and potential impact, and that 3 will include a categorization of maintenance and capital expenditures by needed, wanted, and can afford. If you've got questions in between, or you can stop me or you can wait till the end. 2, proposed charter and calendar realignment. The committee recommends that the board 1, formally adopt the attached business services committee charter at its next meeting, and 2, direct the policy committee to evaluate the budget calendar process from policy 410. I'll just give you some notes on that. We have the business services committee has been working to clarify its purpose, exactly in line with the directives that the board has given it, and sort of synthesizing that and feedback that we've got from admin along the way, we adopted an actual, document that says, hey, here's what we do and how, and then there's a proposed calendar in it so that future business services committee people have a document that they can reference, and it's sort of like a playbook. So the charter's attached to this. You can read it, and it has the draft calendar that has had feedback from Assistant Superintendent Stuckert as well. Because there's a draft calendar in that, it's somewhat in conflict in some ways with the budget calendar process from policy 410, which is why we recommend directing the policy committee to evaluate that budget calendar process. So it's sort of becoming redundant.
And align it with the charter.
And yeah, align it or excise it depending on however best.
And press doesn't even include a budget calendar.
Right, the budget calendar is local language in the policy, yeah. So 3, district opportunities assessment. The committee recommends that the board direct administration to 1, develop a 5-year projection that includes enrollment, staffing trends, and associated costs, and for the projection to be broken out for both general education and special education. And 2, to direct administration that the projection be presented in such a way as to indicate whether, in their opinion, there may be opportunities or needs to adjust over time through retirements, attrition, or growth. And 3, direct administration that the projection be presented in such a way as to show how our current staffing and associated spending compares to past and best practice. That actually touches on a bunch of stuff that we talked about tonight. 4, process for current debt service repayment schedule. The committee recommends that the board direct administration, potentially with support from PMA, to update the board on our current debt load, how soon new capacity might open up, and what types of projects that new and current capacity can support. Also related to some discussions that we've had today. 5, we were presented the levy presentation. The committee recommends that the board approve the levy in line with Assistant Superintendent Stuckert's presentation. And I think I asked her at the time, but I can ask again, in your opinion, that levy is what's best for the district. And then I have some notes for you. Recommendations 1, 3, and 4 should be viewed as a set. Together, they enable the board and community to see a holistic picture of the district's current finances, including present and future staffing, facilities, and capital needs. If given the above direction, the chair expects that the administration will apply their subject matter expertise to add any relevant information and context not expressly listed in the recommendations, so that the board and community receive an accurate view of the district's status and the options available under different prioritization scenarios.
Thank you for that recommendation. And just to restate, so a subcommittee can't give any formal direction to administration. They can give recommendations to the board as a whole, and the board can act on those recommendations via resolution, a specific motion, adopting budget, amending policy, or giving informal direction to administration in a non-binding vote. So I'm of the mindset that just by virtue of general consent, that we should see something like this. I'd like to see something like this. Curious to hear everyone else's opinion. Is there interest in seeing something like this in the future?
Sure.
Yes.
Notice of-
All right, we'll move on to the next item then. Policy committee update.
Yes, press 120 has not been released yet. So I'm curious, Alan and Kelly, or I guess just Alan, if you'd be available. I guess I sent you that text, but I might as well do it here as well, just to confirm. Would November 17th also work in addition to the 10th if we can't get press 120 pushed out by the 10th? Or would we rather meet some other time?
Is there a reason to do both, or should we just do one?
I would suggest we do both. Here's why.
Okay.
What we have on the 10th is probably already at two and a half hours without press 120.
Yep.
You
know me, I like marathon meetings.
Yeah, if you'd rather do
No,
that, we can. But if we want, I would just think break it up. But we can do one long one. If we want to do one long one, maybe we could move it up a little, or I don't really care. Just an idea. We could move it to the 17th if it doesn't come out by the 10th as well. But I guess I'm just curious if the 17th is open for you. That would at least be a majority of the committee. Or if we need to find another date. Like, Kelly, do you know what day it's coming out?
No, they have not released that. The past 2 years, it's been on October 30th.
Okay.
With the accompanying video that they do when they go over like all the
Yeah,
changes.
that's not till November 12th this year, though. I saw the webinar scheduled for the 12th, so that made me think maybe it'll be later. But do they usually release that earlier?
So last year, it was on November 7th.
Okay. So if we're a week behind there, we
So
might not.
It is a tight fit.
So would you, and then you're gone for that week too, right?
I am.
So yeah, I think we should probably move it. Would you prefer if we move it, Kelly?
I would suggest to move.
I'm fine moving.
Okay, so would the 17th work or the 24th? I'd prefer the 17th because we could take action on the 24th. On the 25th. If we have the meeting on the 24th, it would be a tight turnaround for Kelly to come back to the board on the 25th with action from that meeting. So if you can do the 17th, Alan, can someone else be here on the 17th?
Kelly's gone that week before.
Well, I guess we could technically, no, we have to do it.
Is there a scenario where you could do the press update at the next policy cycle? Just in 3 months?
No.
You have to have in order to do the administrative procedures project, you're going to need to have everything adopted by February.
Yeah, so.
All the 120 updates need to be adopted by February.
Could we put it as a double header on November 25th, right before the 7 o'clock board meeting? Like do a 5:30?
No, it's gonna be, we have way too much to cover.
Is there any way where it can be like a written memo and then you guys
No.
No. It's gonna be deliberation?
Yes. Because of what's on the agenda already, there's going to need to be deliberation.
I'm just saying, just for press alone.
Oh, yeah, there'll still be deliberation.
You can't do it after the 17th?
I mean, what's the...
Because
what's the issue with the 17th, I guess?
I have to fly to
Kelly's on
Texas to
vacation,
see,
so she won't be able to push out.
and I have to fly to Texas to see my mother from the 13th to the 17th.
What if I just did it?
And this is just for the policy committee meeting, so I'm usually sick for those.
I already been missing a lot of meetings. It's very hard to understand the policy if you're not at the meeting and hear it discussed. Like, I understood everything, like, it was confusing to me to
You could have the
read.
agenda in advance, though? Like, have you made it far enough before you left, or is it not possible to have it made before you leave?
Yeah, it just needs to be the work that has to be done to compile. Right now we have 36 policies in the 120 update, which is a big one. I'm not sure exactly how substantive the changes are. I can do my best to try to get that out.
Why can't we push this into December?
So we could do it in December, because then we could have a December 1st reading, right? February 2nd reading potentially, and still be good for the AP project.
Yeah, I'd really like to be there for that one because it's hard to follow all that much without
Is
being
that what
at
that
the meeting.
logistically? So moving it to December logistically is feasible. There's a question.
You-
There was a question.
Yes, and you said not the 24th?
December 24th?
No.
Oh,
November 24th. You have a meeting, then you have a board meeting on the 25th.
I guess we could do it then and just not take action on the 25th. We just push it to, because I don't see
I'll
how.
defer to,
Alan, do you have a preference? Sometime December, November 24th?
I would probably prefer the first week in December over the week of the 24th.
December 1st then? Or
Yeah.
or would a different day, like I could do the 26th of November? No?
Our offices are closed that day.
And just, Alex, just for my clarification, like, they haven't released a press update yet. We're up against the gun with the Administrative Procedures Project
Yes.
for February. If they do release press by November, what is it, 8th, I think is no, 4th? November 4th
When
is
do you
the.
leave?
I'm looking.
This Saturday?
no, the 8th.
Okay. So no, we would need it by at least, what, the 6th, 5th, 4th?
In order for it to be with the correct, it has to be the 6th. I would release it the 6th of the 7th.
But when do you need the stuff? Like, could you do it same day?
Well, Kelly does a lot of that preparation work.
That's what I'm saying. Like, can you do that all the same
I mean,
day?
if they released it on October 30th, then, I mean, I'll do my best.
I guess what I'm,
That was my whole goal was,
when's the latest that this Press 120 could be released to just leave the schedule?
Alex, why don't we plan on the 10th? Let's see when 120 comes out. We can discuss on the 10th. If 120 comes out too late for the 10th, we can discuss meeting maybe early December to go through 120.
Yeah, that's a good idea. That way, if it maybe it'll surprise us, a little Christmas present, be out earlier.
But I'm saying, even if it were to come out tomorrow, you'd be okay? Like, I thought we're already too late, and that's what I'm trying to figure out.
Just saying, there's time, even if it comes next week.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so we maybe.
We just have a group of meetings coming up that require that preparation.
Fine. You got to email the press people. Just be like, where is this update?
Yeah, I'll have to, well, I was.
That's what you should do.
Policy, learning and teaching, special
Yes.
meeting, regular meeting, that's,
So we'll try to find a contingency date if the 10th doesn't
Discuss
work.
it on the 10th.
We
Let's
for
see
sure.
where
Yeah,
we
let's
end
talk
up.
about
Let's
it.
see where the dust settles on 120. When it comes out, if we can do it on the 10th, that's great. It's easier for me to do it all in one night personally. Just
Okay, that's good to
from a
know.
family perspective. But if we have to do it in two, then I would look to say maybe early December, get it in the December meeting for approval in January, ahead of the February deadline. That was
I guess I want to get this straight. I'm still not.
We're just gonna meet on the
We
10th.
want for sure to meet on the 10th, not cancel the 10th, but maybe or maybe not look at 120th on the 10th. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, I think so. Yes,
On
that is
the
what I'm
10th
saying.
of December or November?
November.
November 10th.
Oh, November 10th for your meeting.
We will meet regardless on
Oh,
November
just-
10th.
We're gonna make no changes right now. We're gonna just
Calendar
hang tight,
stands as it is.
and we're gonna wait and see. And then in the next week or so, as the situation develops,
Okay.
Okay, sounds good.
somebody's working overtime at press. I'm sure they're gonna come through for us. All right, so the parent-teacher advisory, Christian's not here for this. There is a parent-teacher advisory meeting in December.
December
And I know
12th, right?
it is
9th.
yeah.
Oh, 9th. Okay.
And Christian emailed Meg and Nick, and they're working and are hopefully going to get together on an agenda. And I know Beth and Heather, that's in your wheelhouse because we wrapped behavioral interventions together. So now we're just one big happy family.
Okay.
So that agenda setting process is going to look a little different. So forthcoming info. And then, but Meg, as we talked about, behavioral intervention, as you guys know it, is still operating just totally independently. It's just its own thing. So no changes from when we had last discussed at the last PTAC meeting. No deviations, all the same. Anything else on parent-teacher advisory and behavioral intervention?
No, I reached out to Sycamore Education Foundation, but I haven't heard back. I'm trying to get to one of their meetings.
Gotcha. Yep. Yeah, Todd Mam's your guy. That's who you're looking for.
Oh, maybe you can email me later along with that list. I had trouble finding the list just now for the meetings that you wanted us to attend at the conference.
You got it. I'll get you.
Thank you.
All right, so on to old business. Discussion and action on the proposed Illinois Association of School Boards resolution for consideration at the 2025 IASB Delegate Assembly. There is a resolutions committee report that you guys all should have been able to see. We are among, am I right in understanding this? Are we the only district?
We're the only one
A
that
resolution?
submitted, yeah.
We're the only one who sent in a resolution. So we are gonna get the eyes and ears of every single school district in the state, reviewing our resolution, our rationale, and the resolutions committee is suggesting a do or doubt. Great job, Heather. We have this whole book just for us. Just Sycamore right here. Big old binder, 853 school districts. So as we sit 3 hours into this meeting, you can see this is hard work right here. Do you want to, there's nothing to tell us because there's normally like 30 of these. So there's one, ours.
So
I think we should adopt it.
Yeah, I think we should. It's the school bus safety funding, so it basically just adds an extension to the law that was recently passed that all districts need to have a they need to be in compliance by July of 2031. On or after July of 2031, everyone needs to be in compliance with 3-point seatbelt systems on new or leased school buses. This creates a waiver that extends a compliance deadline into July 1st of 2034 for districts with a fall enrollment of under 2,000 students or equalized assessed valuation per pupil below the statewide median, and it also authorizes qualifying districts to use transportation fund bonds, proceeds, or revolving lease agreements for the local cost share without counting against the district's statutory debt limit. And it directs the Illinois Department of Transportation to approve alternative research-based occupant protection technologies that may offer equal or greater safety at a lower cost, giving districts flexibility to comply.
And I want to sing Heather's praises here. She proposed this, made this, and with Christian presented it. So this is, I want to like frame this for you. This is excellent work, Heather.
A little help along the way. But yeah, this was, after talking with Lacey and, Steve about this, I realized that this is not in our budget to have it done by 2031. So, I suggested we propose something that gives us a little bit of leeway. So
I did get an email from, sorry.
That's okay.
So I did get an email from the senator who proposed the state bill.
From Jeff.
Yeah, a little bit of interesting resistance. So we will see what happens when they lobby. But anyway, we're making friends everywhere.
Okay.
Any other comments?
Okay, I move that Heather Tomlinson be granted the authority to vote on the IASB resolutions at the 2025 Delegate Assembly solely in accordance with the consensus of the Sycamore CUSD 427 School Board on October 28, 2025.
Second.
Any discussion?
I, as one board member, support this. Do we? I guess we need to get consensus, then we can vote probably, right, Michael?
We don't even need consent. I mean,
no, the motion is with the consensus of the board, so she needs to vote in consensus of what. I think we all support our own resolution, right?
Yep.
Okay, that's what I'm.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Christian put a lot of work into this too. So he on August's meeting when he wasn't here, he was on a video call pitching it to their resolutions committee. He had to fill in. They needed somebody, so he stepped up and did that. So kudos to Christian. So discussion and action on proposed Illinois Association of School Boards constitutional amendments for consideration at the 2025 IASB Delegate Assembly. Amending the Constitution, they need 2/3 majority to do that. I am going to make a motion, well, I guess I will solicit a motion in good form, that Delegate Heather Tomlinson be granted the authority to vote at the 2025 IASB Delegate Assembly solely in accordance with the consensus of the Sycamore CUSD 427 Board on October 28th, 2025 on the proposed IASB constitutional amendments.
So moved.
So moved. Huh? Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on the constitutional amendments?
I'm fine with all of them.
I'm good.
Great. Yeah, I had an opportunity to go to the divisional meeting, Kishwaukee divisional meeting, where they did a breakdown on all the constitutional changes. There was just a lot of updating from it. I think it's just an old document, so some good stuff. So I also support it. Any other discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, ayes have it. Next item on the agenda, approval of the budget calendar / BSC charter. Soliciting a motion to approve the Business Services Committee charter as presented.
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Looks really
Great work.
good. Nice work,
Great
Cole
work,
and
Cole.
colleagues.
Thank you. Nicole helped as well.
Oh, thank you, Nicole.
I guess procedurally, this budget calendar, we'll just use year over year over year
It is a recommended calendar.
for forever. Like in
Yeah, it's a
perpetuity.
recurring recommended calendar.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Item 9.04, report approval of board review policy updates for second reading. Is there a motion to approve updates to policies 2150, 2240, 412, 420, and 730?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
This requires a roll call, I believe, right?
Yep, it's a second reading, so we've talked about this now twice.
What was the
And a
change,
policy.
Kelly?
It was on
Practical.
policy 730 to as practical, as soon as practical, with notifying the board about changes to attendance center
So that's the only, is just adding the word practical.
as soon as practical.
As soon as practical. Okay. It looks good. Thanks.
Any other discussion? Kelly, would you call the roll?
Evans,
Yes.
Grados,
Yes.
Regnery,
Aye.
Tomlinson,
Aye.
Santut,
Yes.
DeVito,
Yes.
motion carried.
New business, approval of the 2025 preliminary tax levy resolution. The recommended action to authorize publication of the 2025 preliminary tax levy resolution is presented. I'll just do a quick preamble. We received this presentation. It is publicly available, and it was presented to the Business Services Committee, and it carries with it the recommendation of the Business Services Committee that we approve this tentative levy. This would then go on to public display, where we'll then vote to approve it after hosting viewing of it again come November. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, I'll restate the motion to authorize publication of the 2025 preliminary tax levy resolution as presented. Kelly, would you call the roll?
Santut,
Yes.
Evans,
Yes.
Grados,
Yes.
Regnery,
Yes.
Tomlinson, DeVito,
Yes.
motion carried.
Item 10.02, approval of the 2025-2026 student handbook updates. The recommended action to approve the 2025-2026 student handbook updates as presented. I spoke with Nick on this and in regard to a memo that was shared about updating in alignment with the Illinois Association of School Principals regarding some updates to the school handbook. It's our hope that updates can go before the Parent-Teacher Advisory Committee, before they go before the board, but given the board's change to scheduling, no fault other than just board adjustment, we're going to, or I'm proposing that we approve these changes without it going to the Parent-Teacher Advisory Committee first. In speaking with Christian, who's not here in attendance. He understands the situation and the timing and thinks that this is our best move as well. So at this point, I'm soliciting a motion to approve the 2025-2026 student handbook updates as presented.
So moved.
Second?
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
So just for clarification, in the future, it will go to PTAC.
Yes, in the future, we want the PTAC to review it, and our policy outlines that. And the only reason it didn't this time is because of our delays from the way the summer scheduling worked out, us kind of figuring out our board calendar. Nothing to do with principals or their work. So, yeah. Great. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'll abstain.
All right. The ayes have it. Is there a motion to that the Board of Education adjourn to executive session for the consideration of matters related to 5 ILCS 120/2C1, 2, 6, 8, 11?
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion. Kelly, would you call the roll?
Gregory?
Aye.
Tomlinson?
Aye.
Santu?
Yes.
Evans?
Yes.
Grados?
Yes.
Polito?
Yes.
Motion carried.
We did.
I wrote it down. So we had 194 people respond to our survey out of 278. 113 have no other insurance. 56 already take cash in lieu, and only 24 people could take cash in lieu that don't.
It was armistice day.
When the second question is about 24 people, what would you take for you to? The average was 8,300, so we had 15 that were less than that and 12 that were more than that. That was their, that's the average. But it's only 24 people, and I know that this number is at least 100 of people that take our cash in lieu, and so
We're good? Okay. It's 10:32, we're now in open session. The item on the agenda, approval of the sale of 245 West Exchange Street. Is there a motion that the Board of Education approve the sale of 245 West Exchange Street for the amount of $151,000?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Yeah, I do have a little bit of discussion. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I might be misremembering the series of events, but this began, at one point the board had gotten an assessment before, a long time ago, that the value of the building was quite high, and then we posted it for sale, and we got some bids back that were quite low, and this was a couple months ago. And we thought that it would be best for the community to try to get them a little bit more money, or at least take another shot, because the bids came in so far off from what was originally thought to be worth. And so then we undertook the journey of collecting some more information. We got a broker's price opinion, basically, on the building. Learned that our original estimations was a little off, and maybe this thing was worth somewhere. What was the range? The broker. I wanted to say
Between 150 and
150 and 250, or so 150 and 200. Yeah. And so then we were armed with that information. We gone through a couple different processes to try to fulfill our fiduciary responsibility. And finally, a couple months later, we've got $151,000 on the table, as opposed to a couple months ago it was
98 or
90.
something like that.
And it cost some money to hold this building, and I think we did the best we possibly could and got as much information as we could, and I feel good about this. So does that sum it up?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And the building's going to a good purpose too on top of it. I feel like that's gonna be good for the community, because I know there was concern from some of that
I'm
near.
not sure those are, that'll be things that'll come out in the future, right?
Oh, I thought they were going to
That
use
was
it
a
for.
that was a closed
That
session
was just
discussion. That was not.
Oh.
It's nothing,
Yes.
it's all good. So we're good. Any other discussion? I get what you're coming from. Any other discussion? No? Okay. Kelly, would you call the roll?
Evans?
Yes.
Kratos?
Yes.
Regnery?
Yes.
Tomlinson?
Yes.
Santu?
Yes.
Vito?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay. During the board meeting on October 28th, 2025, the Sycamore School District approved the sale of its former administration center located at 245 West Exchange Street for $151,000, a $60,000 increase from the previously rejected high bid made to the board in May of 2025. This marks a significant milestone in the district's ongoing facility planning efforts. The district also completed the sale of its district warehouse located at 520 Maple Street earlier this year for $468,000. These sales follow the Board of Education's May 28th, 2024 decision to purchase the former NICOR gas call center at 1947 Bethany Road in Sycamore, which currently serves as the district administration center. The central school building at 245 West Exchange Street has long been a cornerstone of the Sycamore community. Constructed in 1926, it served as a school building until the 1980s before being repurposed for administrative use. For nearly a century, it has supported generations of students, educators, and district operations. The district is optimistic that the building's next chapter will continue to serve the Sycamore community in a meaningful way, honoring its past while creating new opportunities. This meeting stands adjourned.